Welcome to City Council meeting, everyone. We've got a pretty large crowd today, and we're excited for a couple of recognitions that we'll have up front here in just a moment. Let's start, if we could, by, let's see, I don't see her here, but Rabbi Helene Einbinder, or anyone who is substituting for her. I am not seeing her. So I've asked Councilman Jimmy Hughes if he would offer an invocation for us, after which we'd like to have the Todd and Jenna Lineweaver family come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And just so you know, they have 4 boys. Did I get that right, Todd? Garrison, who will be the voice for leading us in the pledge, Jonah, Evan, and Archer. So we're excited to have them. We got a couple scouts in the mix there too. So we welcome all the other scouts, boys and girls that might be here. But today it's going to be the scouts and the Lineweaver family that will lead us in the pledge. So, Jimmy.
Okay, if y'all join with me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this beautiful place in which we live. We are thankful for the storm and the moisture that we have received and for the blessings that it brings to this land. We are so thankful for the freedoms that we enjoy. We ask you to bless us at this time that we may be able to have thy spirit with us, to have wisdom, and to be able to make decisions that will be the benefit of our entire community. We again give thee thanks for this wonderful place in which we live and ask thee to please bless us, to continue to bless us with the bounteous blessings that thou hast given us. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Okay. Lineweaver family, you can come forward just right here to the podium. Garrison is just about, you just go down the other way, Garrison. Yeah, and face us. Pull that down and face us. And you can all come up and just look this way. And then, by the way, Garrison's just about to earn his Arrow of Light award, so, yeah. This is looking at you, so yeah, there you go. So, Garrison, will you tell us what we need to do?
May the audience please rise. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May the audience please be seated.
Excellent. Thank you, Garrison and the whole Lineweaver family. We're glad to have you here. I don't know this too often we have a whole family here, and I think it's first time in the 11 years I've been involved that we've had a whole family lead us in the pledge, so thank you. All right. I want to excuse, at least for the time being, Councilwoman Betty Ariel. She will probably be joining us a little bit later, but she was out of town on business today and was just hustling to try to get back in town. So we will probably see her. Otherwise, we have a full council, and glad to have everybody here today. So I'd like to turn the time to the police department at this time, and I'm not sure who's going to be doing this. Is it you, Chief Stratton, Chief Marlon Stratton, and Captain Giles, and whoever else is involved? Please come forward, and we have some really neat recognitions to do today.
Mayor and Council, we appreciate this opportunity to present to you some incredible citizens that live in our community. We're going to start today by recognizing an incredible young lady, 7-year-old Dylan Ott. And we are really happy to have her and her family here with us today. And we're going to show a news clip that tells you the story of what happened and how Dylan Ott was instrumental in saving her little sister Blake's life. We'll roll that clip.
Dylan was outside when she heard the commotion. Her baby sister was discovered in this pool behind me. Her mom started doing CPR, and Dylan knew what she had to do.
Our baby fell into the pool, and we can't get her back alive.
Police have released Thursday's 911 call. You can hear frantic voices in the background, but Dylan remains calm.
How old is the baby? She's 1 year old.
Pulled her out, and all of her color was like a blue tinge, and her lip color was the same. She wasn't breathing at all, and there was just no life to her. And I knew that I couldn't lay her down in the backyard because I just felt like no one was gonna hear me. So I ran through the house, and I just started screaming to Dylan.
Dylan, dial 911, dial 911. So I got her phone.
It's so hard to think that I put so much pressure on my 7-year-old. But she was amazing. I told her the phone was inside somewhere. I didn't know where. I couldn't think. And I just had to start working on my baby.
Dylan's mom learned CPR at a girls' camp as a teenager. Baby Blake was breathing again by the time help arrived and flown to Primary Children's Hospital. Today, she's back home, and while still shaken, there's a reason the family is sharing the story.
And someone watching says, I feel inclined to get certification or to know the steps to have an outcome like this. I think it'll bring some healing.
Thank you for all who saved her. That's just a miracle.
In St. George, Lauren Mathias, News 4, Utah.
Wow, is that amazing? That is absolutely amazing. Could I have our representatives from dispatch come up? Katie and Cindy, Justin, Seth, come on up. Could we have Andrea, your husband, your family, and Dylan? Could you come up here, please? Dylan, I want to introduce you to the dispatcher that you spoke to that day. This is dispatcher Katie Lefevre. Why don't you give her a hug? She was amazing too, wasn't she? Dylan, we would like to present to you a certificate and also some cool stuff, expressing our appreciation to you for being so incredible on that day. You were so strong, and you did such a great job at calling 911 and talking to our 911 dispatcher, Katie. And I really know that you were instrumental in saving your little sister Blake's life. And I know from watching that news clip that your mom really counted on you a lot that day, and you really, truly made a difference. And so we want to present you with that certificate, and hopefully you will always remember that. And then this little gift that we have here for you, that's something very special from us to you. And we want to express our appreciation to you and tell you a job very well done. Mayor, do you and any of the council want to come down and meet these incredible people? Or
Hey, let's all come down. We'd like to shake your hand.
Congratulations, Dylan. Congratulations. Want you right down here? Congratulations.
Anything Mom or Dad want to say, Chief?
That's a good question. Let's give them another hand. Thank you. I also have a plaque here that I want to present to Katie Lefevre. As we all know, our dispatchers are amazing. Every single day they do amazing things. Katie she is really a special dispatcher. She is so good at what she does, and she is so amazing. And so we want to express our appreciation to you for the great job you did on that day of helping Dylan when she called in, and you got help there real quickly. So just a little token of our appreciation for you, and thank you for being amazing. All right, the next one we have, give you a little bit of a background, and then we have a video that we want to show you. But on July 7th, 2018, Officer Eric Trombley, who is a gentleman here on the end, he's here with us tonight. He made a traffic stop, and during the course of the traffic stop, he was detaining an individual that had committed traffic violations, and in fact, had the officer determined, Eric determined that he had a need to impound the car. And as he tried to get the gentleman to step out of the car, the gentleman in the car wasn't very cooperative. And Eric tried to turn the car off, and as he did so, the driver, the violator, refused to stay there. And as Eric was reaching in to try to turn the ignition off, the suspect drove off and left Eric hanging out the window. And during that time, a gentleman was driving down the road, and he saw what was happening. His name is Alejandro Ruchan, and he's here tonight as well. But before we present this, let's show the video and show you how incredible this situation was and how dangerous it was.
Arrest.
This is my mother.
Sir, you're under arrest.
Guys, this is my mother.
You are under arrest.
Oh my God.
You're under arrest.
For what? Don't. Why are you doing this to me for?
Officer, told us inside the vehicle. He's heading northbound. Arrest.
This is my mother.
Sir, you're under arrest.
Guys, this is my mother.
You are under arrest.
Oh my God.
You're under arrest.
For what?
As you could see, Officer Trombley, that was a very, very dangerous situation. And it's very important that we have the public step up and help us in these extraordinary circumstances. I'm going to have Officer Trombley say a few words here in a minute. But first of all, I'd like to ask Alejandro Ruchan, would you please come forward? We'd love to present a certificate to you.
Okay, thank you very much. It means a lot to me and my family. There's also a coin that we have made just for our department. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate it. Take your
On that day, just to let you know, the gentleman that we had tried to talk to, I gave him, a good half hour, and during this time, unfortunately, he was just one of those people who did not want to relinquish his car. Unfortunately, what had happened during the thing is we tried to subdue him before he could take off. And when he started to go, I reached into the car, turned it off the first time, and he managed to hit my backup officer at that time. Again, he managed to turn that car back on, and my thinking is, if someone wants to try to get away on something so simple, what else is he willing to do? So I decided that I would try to continue to stop this gentleman. As we went down the street, as we started to go, I just knew I needed to get my feet out from underneath the car because I didn't want to get run over myself. And I did manage to turn it off. After I did that, I realized Mr. Alejandro had pulled his vehicle in front, and it gave me plenty of time to realize that there was enough people or citizens that cared enough about officers to take care of the situation. I'm greatly, greatly indebted to him.
And I think Officer Trombley's wife, Lona, would second that motion. So thank you so much. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Dylan. We appreciate you so much for helping us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. We're grateful when scary events like these can end happily, and so we appreciate our police department, including our dispatchers, and of course the public, the citizens that are. We need you to be partners with us, as you can tell in both these cases. It took people, just average citizens and 7-year-olds and adults as well, to make these two events happen and a happy outcome. So thank you very much. We appreciate all that our public safety officials do. These are tough jobs, and we always hear this stated, but these are people that walk into harm's way, run into harm's way, run into fires when we're all running out. Every day, they're putting their lives at risk for us. So we appreciate them very much. All right. Motion to adjourn? I sometimes wish we could. Thank you very much, everyone who's been here, and you are welcome to stay as long as you want, and you can also leave whenever you want during the proceedings today. Adam, any changes to the agenda?
I would just point out one, or perhaps recommend one change. Items number 8 and 22 are related, and so I would suggest that when we get to item 8, if that is approved by the council, that we would immediately go to item 22, so that those who may be in attendance for that could just have those be heard together. Other than that, the agenda is as presented.
Okay. And then before we get started with that, Christina, will the community health centers folks be here? Are they here today? Okay, I wasn't sure. So where are you? Oh, there they are. I saw you earlier, Lori. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is read a proclamation, and then we'll have Lori Wright come forward if there's anything she'd like to say, and we'll hand this to her. But for over 50 years, whereas for over 50 years, this is small enough print. Again, I'm going to show my age here. Community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive family and preventative health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. And whereas since 2002, Family Health Care in St. George, Utah has provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventive health care in our community's underserved population, delivering value to and having a significant impact on Southwest Utah's health care. And whereas Family Health Care developed new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of our community. And whereas Family Health Care has served over 13,000 patients last year with 39,000 visits. That's a lot of people and a lot of visits. Family Health Care has 2 clinics in St. George, the main clinic downtown, not far from us here, and the Mill Creek Clinic on the high school campus. And whereas Family Health Care serves both rural and urban populations and often provides the only accessible and dependable source of primary care, and whereas Family Health Care provides access to people who live at or below the poverty level, $24,600 annually for a family of 4, $12,060 for a single person. It's not a lot of money. Whereas Family Health Care overcomes barriers to health care access, including financial, language, and cultural, to improve health care outcomes and reduce health care costs. And whereas Family Health Care reduces overall costs of care by helping manage patients' chronic conditions, which keeps them out of costlier healthcare settings like hospital emergency rooms. And whereas Family Health Care is on the front lines of emerging healthcare crises, providing access to care for our nation's veterans and the elderly, and addressing the opioid epidemic. And whereas during National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of St. George's Family Healthcare and their vital role in shaping the past, present, and future of primary and patient-centered healthcare in St. George. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan T. Pike, Mayor of the City of St. George, do hereby proclaim August 12th through 18th, 2018, as National Community Health Center Week. So that's what I've signed and put the seal on. I'd like to present that to Lori Wright from representing Family Health Care here in St. George. If you'd come forward and anything you want to say, Lori. Let's give her a round of applause. Just tell them a little bit more about what you
I'm telling you because I'm here. We are the community health center in town, and this year we'll serve over 14,000 people, and we really are targeted at serving those who are uninsured or earning less than 200% of poverty. And we do great work. Most of our providers speak Spanish, and we're doing some really cool things with behavioral health integration and really working hard to address the opioid crisis. We have about 102 patients that we're helping with medication-assisted therapy who are struggling with opioid addiction. And we have 11 medical providers, 2 dentists, 4 behaviorists, and that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, we're busy, and we're so glad to be in St. George and appreciate the support that we get from you all and from the mayor. He's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate it. Might just mention that I remember I was involved in the day when there was a discussion about how we could best help the people in our community. And I wasn't involved at the city at that time, but through Intermountain Healthcare, I was a part of a group talking about it. And there were people saying, well, we need to expand the doctor's volunteer clinic. That time it was the doctor's free clinic. It's now called the doctor's volunteer clinic. And they were functioning out of a little home over here that was part of Dixie Care and Share. And they were using, I think it was the kitchen and one bedroom in this little old house as their clinic. And so the decision was made that they needed to expand, and so and that there separately ought to be a sliding scale fee, if you will, clinic, such as a federally qualified health clinic. And so that's what it takes sometimes, are people that they recognize needs, volunteers, medical professionals who still, and you look at the Doctor's Volunteer Clinic, Michelle's on their board, and I have been on their board in the past, and you see how that's grown and the thousands of patients they see for no charge. And it's not necessarily meant to be ongoing, but it ends up being ongoing care sometimes, right, Michelle? And then you have Family Health Care, who's been meeting the needs since they were able to get their organization founded and funded and recognized. And you have 2 wonderful organizations who cooperate and take care of many people who are either uninsured, underinsured, and just have needs. Sometimes they're acute or, kind of just once, and sometimes they're over the long term. So thank you to all those who in any way are providing those services. It helps our community more than most people know. Thanks, Lori. Appreciate you and your organization.
Mayor, I would just add to that we think of that just in St. George, but for example, the healthcare facility out by Mill Creek High School serves kids throughout the county that attend our schools, not just St. George residents.
That's right. And they're also in Hurricane, is that right, Lori? And Cedar. And I believe that they might have some plans to try to build a new place in the future sometime. Am I okay to say that? Yes. Okay, good. Anything you'd like to say, Michelle, representing one of these partners?
We're just happy for the work they do and providing that need for our community, because they are extremely busy.
Yep.
So thank you.
All right. Now, I believe we're ready to start. Can you believe this, folks? We're just now getting to the written agenda. But these were important things, and we're really glad to be able to recognize these people, individuals, and groups that are doing such great things. So, Adam, should we start with the consent calendar?
Let's do it. This week we have 7 items. These are items 1A through 1G. These are administrative in nature. They've been reviewed by city staff and found to comply with all of our regulations. Unless the council would like to remove any of these items 1A through 1G for additional conversation, then staff would recommend approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Can I just ask one question?
You bet.
Just on item E, I know we budgeted a lot more than what that master plan is costing. Is that a complete update of the master plan, or is that a partial? Is there going to be more to come, or is that really it?
Cameron, would you like to address the question real quick? This is for item E for the Transportation Master Plan with Horrocks Engineers.
Yeah, the $120,000, that's their proposal to do what we need in the scope that that's in the packet. We recognize, we actually budgeted for like, I think it was $250,000. And a lot of times when things come up during this time, if we see something that we didn't address earlier, we'll have to do a contract modification and increase that amount for them to do that specific area. So we have plenty of money budgeted for it that went through, that was approved earlier, but yeah, it's just a $120,000 contract right now.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions or items that you'd like to pull out of the consent calendar for individual consideration?
I'll just make a comment, Mayor, if I might, on item G, the donation agreement of Legacy Ridge, and that would be right by where the power plant is. We have the College Storms, and we have those new apartments there, and that 32 acres is intended to maintain open space for the city. So by doing that, it allows us to keep that openness that so many of us want.
Good point. Thanks for highlighting that. If there are no issues that you'd like to have pulled out, I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by, was that you, Jimmy?
Yes.
And a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, if you would be willing, we would suggest taking item number 2. I know we discussed amendments to the agenda a few minutes ago, but we're currently wrapping up a few minor items. If we could push that to
Sure.
the end of the agenda, come back to that one, and proceed to item number 3.
You got it.
So item number 3 brings us to the land use portion of our agenda, and we'll turn the time over to Wes.
Okay, item 3 is a request to consider approval of an amended residential subdivision final plat and vacation of public utility easement. The amended final plat is Mesa Villa condominiums amended. Representative is Pope Engineering. Property is located 1109 East, 400 South, zone is R3. Purpose of this amended plat and vacation of public utility easement is they're adding, so here's I-15, here's 400 South, here's the potential underpass right there. They are adding that building, and this building, which was all common area, and there was a public utility and drainage easement over that common area. So we're vacating that public utility and drainage easement and amending that plat.
Questions, council? You know where this is and why this is kind of happening, but any questions for staff?
There was a question on whether we would have access to that underpass. Has that been resolved?
So this is the portion that their city is working with the developer to obtain to be able to put that underpass right there, right through there.
Are you comfortable that will happen?
Cameron would know more about that than I would.
Okay, sorry.
We are currently under design with that. I know it already went through council to approve a purchase of that property. We've been working with the developer. And the The one thing that they came back and asked is they need a sidewalk drain from their development, and they're asking if they can just put a pipe underneath the trail. And so that was the last thing, and at that point, Jay Sandberg, I talked to him, and I think the developer is going to be on board to sign that document.
Okay.
But yeah, the project itself is under design, and they are scheduled to bid it out sometime maybe around December and go to construction first part of the year.
January, yeah, February.
Great, thank you.
For the public listening to this, that underpass, that's going to connect the college so that the college students will be able to access that underpass and go all the way to Harmon's and some of those
Yeah.
other marketplaces there.
Yeah, it'll
as
give
well.
pedestrian access,
Right.
bicyclists, pedestrians, no vehicular access, but pedestrian access
Right.
under the freeway.
And the state's already indicated their willingness to participate in that.
Yeah, the funding's there. Once we get it designed, we'll get it bid and see, hopefully we'll get some good bids and all the funding and everything will be in place.
Thank you.
I think they told us yesterday it was hopefully be ready to go the next next school year.
Yep.
Right? Done. It's their plan.
The UDOT would be paying half, essentially, of the cost, and then the city and the university and the county-wide metropolitan planning organization is paying a little bit as well. So it's nice when we can all work together to get something like this accomplished. So, okay, so any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll open the public hearing for anyone who may have come to ask questions or offer input on this item, which is number 3 on our agenda today. Seeing none, I'll come back to you, council, for any further discussion or for your action.
Motion to amend the final subdivision plat of Mesa Villa condominiums by vacating the common area for the building sites D, E, and F as shown on the plat.
Second.
We have a motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is a request to consider approval of an amended roadway final subdivision plat called Desert Color Parkway Roadway Dedication. Representatives Bush and Gudgel. Property is located at Straggles Drive and Southern Parkway. Zone is PDC, and the purpose of this amendment is to change the name from Straggles Drive to Desert Color Parkway.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this.
We can say that.
It just doesn't have that great ring.
So that's the purpose of this amendment.
Well, the astragalus is what gave the desert color.
There you go. Very good.
You guys know what astragalus is, right?
Yep.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows. Don't you eat it? Oh, that's asparagus. Oh,
Close.
it is actually a plant.
It is.
Endangered.
So any questions on this, council, before I open the public hearing? Well, then I will open the public hearing for anyone who has come to ask questions or offer input on this. Number 4. I kind of didn't think so. So we'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve the name change as indicated to Desert Color Parkway.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Next item on the agenda, item number 5, public hearing consideration of an ordinance changing the zone from RE20 to OS open space on 3.037 acres for Meadow Edge Phase 2. Property is located at 3900 Quarry Ridge Drive in Little Valley area. So this is highlighted in red. This is the property requested to be rezoned. This is Bentley here, 3970. This is that Quarry Ridge. So it's this area located right here. The current zoning on the property is RE20. The general plan shows it as floodplain. And so this is the exhibit that was provided by the applicant. You can see they're going to have some lots located here, RE20, and then the back portion, which will be located in the floodplain, is requested to be rezoned to open space. Planning Commission recommended approval on this request. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Questions before John sits down, council? So a portion of this, let's see, what portion did you say? 3.037 acres. Okay, for Meadow Edge Phase 2. All right, no questions? Then I'll open the public hearing for any who've come to for input on this, number 5 on our agenda today. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to the council for any discussion or for your motion.
Motion to approve the zone change amendment for Meadows Edge Phase 2, changing the RE20 to open space on 3.037 acres.
Second.
We have a motion by Jimmy with a second by Betty. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Betty this time again, say aye.
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 That motion carries unanimously.
Next item on the agenda, item number 6, public hearing and consideration of an ordinance changing the zone from PDC/R to PDR planned development on 6.04 acres for Sunbrook Hollow Townhomes. Property is located at 1415 South Dixie Drive behind the existing building on the property. This application was seen once before by the City Council in 2015. There's a provision in our ordinance that requires building permits to be pulled 18 months after the PDR approval. No building permits were pulled, therefore the zoning reverted back to the previous zone. The applicant is requesting nearly the same request. There's only one major modification, and I'll review that when we get to the site plan. So this is the area that they're requesting. This is Dixie Drive, is located here. This is the existing building, and Mathis Park is located here. So it's this area highlighted in green. The general plan shows a medium density residential, which is 5 to 9 units an acre. MDR can accommodate between 30 to 54 units on this property. The zoning on is actually the PDCR, not the PDR, because it reverted back. So this is the previous approval. The previous approval had garages out front for each of the units, which met the covered parking requirements, and it had a playground in the center area. This is the proposed site plan. Here's a close-up. And so they are proposing carports instead of the garages. That's the one major modification. The layout is the same. They're proposing a splash pad and gazebo for the recreation area, playground, pickleball courts. All the units and layout and the density is the same as it was. They're proposing 54 units, and so they are the top at the MDR range. Their density is 8.9 units. Again, they meet the parking, the landscaping requirement, and they do meet the recreation component, which is 200 square feet per unit. So this is the elevations that's being proposed. Same elevations. Instead of having the garage here, they are proposing the carports. There is also the materials board that's located on the table. If the city council would like to review that, I can pass that around. Other elevations, they're 2-story. They don't exceed the height limitation. A couple pictures of the area. Looking back on the site plan and reviewing the comments. These are the same comments that were carried over from the previous approval. If you recall, they have Dixie Drives here, and they have a 50-foot easement that'll provide access back to this area. So just reading through the conditions, that staff provided. Existing trees along the existing residential on the south should remain, and so there are several trees here that should remain. If they remove any of those trees should be replaced. Also, to carry the trees from this area here to continue up to Dixie Drive. The emergency access, there's this emergency access is being proposed, and I think it's already been worked out with the city council. This access is required to be improved to the fire department's standards. Planning Commission, they took public comment on this item. They discussed it, and their recommendation was, they recommended 5 dwelling units an acre, which was approximately 30 units. And so they decreased the density from the 8.9 that they were proposing, and they decreased it to 5 units an acre. That was the Planning Commission's recommendation. It passed 4-1 for that motion. And that concludes staff's presentation on this item.
John, that reduction to 5 units per acre, that would mean 30 units in that complex instead of the 54?
Yeah, that is correct.
And also, these would be townhomes sold independently. There are not any rentals planned in there to be rented. There'd be more affordable housing.
I'm not sure if they're going to rent them or not, but that'd be a good question to ask the applicant. I know that they've discussed platting them and not platting them, and so that may be a good question to ask the applicant.
Thank you.
What was the density of the original approval?
Original approval was the 54 units, which was the 8.9.
Any other questions, council? If the applicant's here and would like to address the council, be happy to have him do that.
Yes, my name is Troy Wall. Myself, my father, and my son are the owners of this parcel. We've developed a few communities similar to this. But just to give a little history on the parcel itself, it was originally zoned what it is now at that commercial residential zone, which at that time was approved for 140 units on that piece right there. Then a previous owner before us came in, had it rezoned to that medium density at 54 units. We came into the picture when there was like 3-4 months left on the zoning. Trying to get finances lined out. We thought it was no big deal. We'd just come back in and get it rezoned for exactly what was there. Financing took longer than we thought, so the zoning expired, so we're back to trying to get that rezoned to that 54 units. You know, we think that it's a good spot for affordable housing. You know, you only directly adjacent touch 8 other homes there, and the setbacks are huge. Setbacks, I believe, are 25 feet. So it's not like you're building right on a property line there as well. Nearly half of the property is bordered by a city park. And of course, the front of it is bordered by a commercial building. So I don't know where else in town that we could get affordable housing in that. But after the planning and zoning meeting, I have a feeling that this meeting is going to be more about growth and affordable housing. We all know you can't stop growth unless we put a stop to how many kids you can have. So basically all we can do is plan for it. The city of St. George's went through so much growth in the last few years, and in my opinion has done a great job of planning for it. But affordable housing, you know, there's just only so many things you can do to get affordable housing. One is to get the cost of contractors, get the cost of construction down, which we know that right now is horrible. The cost of real estate, which right now is horrible, it's high. Impact fees and taxes, I don't see those coming down as well either. So the only way you can possibly get affordable housing is a little higher density. We're not asking for that original 140 units on there. We're asking for the 54 that was previously granted on the property. You know, here, I think it was like 2 months ago, the Spectrum had an article in the newspaper about affordable housing, about the working man in this town has a hard time surviving here. In that article, if I remember right, the average home sales was over 500,000. That eliminates, you know, your guy working at the bank. That eliminates the guy working at the grocery store. The introductory police officer makes under 40,000 a year. A school teacher, my daughter just got hired on as a school teacher, 32,000 a year. Those types of working people cannot afford a $350,000, $400,000, $500,000 home. There's a huge demand for it. We even teach up here on the hill at the community college, the technical college. Well, unfortunately, when the MA gets their certificate up there or their CNA, they hit the workforce making $23,000 a year. How are they to survive in this town? There is not that there. With that being said, I do know that down Dixie Drive a little ways, there was another parcel rezoned to medium density, just like we're asking here. I don't think it's anything far-fetched. The 54 units is not, you know, hundreds of units like that was designed to go here in the first place. 54 units really is not that much. I know because of the previous meeting, you know, traffic's gonna be one of those things. But unfortunately, we all hate traffic, no matter if it's in your backyard, your front yard, where it's at. But again, we've planned for it. Dixie Drive is a main arterial road that carries a lot of traffic. The picture that he showed there, the access to this property is a good cross-section intersection. There's a turning lane on both sides. There's an open median in the middle. There is a traffic light not even a block away, so you do get that break in traffic as well. So for the 54 units, we believe that it is a great place for this, and I will step down and let the rest talk, and if I can answer more questions, fire away.
Troy, I know this is, I don't mean to be picking on you personally.
No, that's fine.
But
My wife does
how
all
do
the
we
time.
how do we know that you will make that affordable housing once, if it's approved? And what do you consider a unit as being affordable?
We're looking, and that's the reason why we cut down on the garage. Instead of having a pool, because a pool, what that does is it drives your HOA fees up. But we're looking at right around $200,000 per unit. We've already got the construction drawings done. Like I say, just the lack of money is the reason why this expired before we could ever get it going.
But when you say 200,000, what square footage would that be?
They're 1,370 something square feet per unit. So I mean, it's a nice
just to clarify, the average sale price in Washington County is not $500,000.
Oh, you know, it was similar to that in the newspaper. I don't remember what that was.
Yeah, that was kind of it was a snapshot in time, but really the average is closer to 3.
Yeah. But even at that, you know, a CNA that just got a certificate, there's not a chance that they could ever buy a house or, you know, so what they end up doing is they end up going to Kanab, they end up going to Richfield, they end up going to places like that where they can afford to live and put that education that they just got to work, which affects all of us greatly here, because when industry looks to come to St. George, the first thing they look for is, can we get tax breaks? Second thing they look for is there an affordable workforce there? And when there's not housing, when people are just leaving to find a place to live that they can afford, you know, they've got the education, they've spent the money on the education, but they can't afford to stay here, it does affect the workforce. So,
any other questions for Troy?
Mr. Wall, you intend to sell all those off? There'll be no rentals, or there'll be some exclusion, or some time frame before they can be rented out, or how do you plan to
no,
address
there's
that?
not. Unfortunately, we never know what the economy is going to bring. I mean, I'm sure there was tons of people that had to rent their homes to
live through the last downcline in the economy. But I wish I was rich enough to just say, yeah, I can just keep them all and I'm going to rent them out and I own them outright. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, if some of them end up getting rented, it's no different than a house in a neighborhood next door. You know what I mean? Some of them, there's a percentage of them that are going to get rented no matter what.
And another question, am I to understand that the Planning Commission recommended 30 units to you at the Planning Commission
Yes.
meeting, and your position on that, it's 54 or it doesn't pencil out for you? Is that correct?
You know, we bought the property and based it all on 50 units. We were approached that if we could get the secondary access in and make the fire marshal and the fire chief happy, then that would raise that up to that 54. That also played a little part in why we were late getting the zoning started. Getting started on it was trying to make sure that we had access for fire in and out.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? So again, just to refresh, what was authorized previously was 54 units.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else from staff? No. Okay. Then I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who's come to offer input or concerns or questions on this item number 6 on our agenda tonight. If you'll keep your comments as concise as you can, and let's try as much as we can to not be repetitive. Right. If there are key concerns, we'd like to hear them all, but we don't need to hear them necessarily, 20 times.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Brownritter. I've been here before you guys before. One of the things that I heard this presentation just recently, the word affordable came up about 25 different times. And the issue of safety I heard twice. And I stand before you, I'm not trying to prevent the owner from building, but I have grave concern with the safety issue. Could I go back? How do I navigate back to some of the pictures that were?
Yeah, John will help you.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. I'm not sure what is the best picture here, so let me just quickly, this is super touchy also. Okay. If you're looking, I'm going to look up right here. Well, I can look down here. If you're right here, you're on, I think this is called Alameda Drive that they're standing on, taking the picture of. Is that accurate? Alienta Drive. Okay. The stop sign to the right is, now you're about to intersect to Dixie Drive. Right across the street is where the proposed drive-in will be, or street. The distance from this street to the Parkside Circle is literally like a car driving 45 miles an hour is literally 2 seconds. I want to say that again. The distance from Parkside Circle, so Parkside Circle is just, if you look at that stop sign, another 50 yards, okay, further down on driving on Dixie Drive is Parkside Circle. And I live on that street right there. And I've had a near wreck. I did not wreck. As a matter of fact, yesterday, my neighbor, there is no pull-in, there is no pull-out lane right there. There is no merging lane for me to turn left. So I immediately have to jump right into the left or the right-hand lane as I'm pulling onto Dixie Drive. It's really, really scary because of the S-curve in the road. 3 houses further down on Dixie Drive, I used to live in the old proper Green Valley neighborhood area. My backyard backed up to Dixie Drive. I lived there for 7 years. In 7 years, I had 3 cars on my property come down and crash down the steep hill. If you guys are familiar with that S-curve, it's very, very steep right there. I've had 3 cars crash. I finally had a contractor build a 4-foot, like 18-inch thick skirt around my property so that nobody would come crashing down. Unfortunately, the owner, I know the owner quite well, he had a car that actually went past that. And my point is, there's a lot of speed coming through the S-curve, even though they say they're supposed to keep it down. They don't, especially if they make the green light as they're coming through. So my concern is, as you have 54 units coming right here, and they're trying to merge into Dixie Drive, I'm really concerned about that. Now, if you look at Green Valley proper, there's like about 109 units in that area, okay? This is 54. This is half. So if I took the Green Valley proper area, and that's basically between Parkside Circle and Valley View Drive, those 109 units right there, I compact all that into 54 units, and I have 54 families trying to pull out right here in front of this picture right here, and I'm trying to turn left or right. I have real safety concern, and I don't know how to emphasize that sufficiently. Anyway, I don't want to be repetitive. There is really only one lot between these 2 streets. There's one lot and then this open space right here, which is probably maybe about 100 feet. I don't know that to be exact. Comment has been made about the city and how this was a higher density years ago. I agree. I grew up in Green Valley when in 1977 there were 5 houses here. And I remember Moore's Business Forum. This building is called Moore's Business Forum to all of the old folks. And I used to hunt pheasant around it.
He worked there.
I used to hunt on Blake's property. And so my point is, yes, there has been different zonings throughout time, but as the city has grown and densities have changed and traffic impact and the busyness of the streets have changed, I think also judgment and common sense needs to be applied to the city as well as to the zone, and what actually fits and might make some sense. And again, I'm a CPA. I'm in business. I recognize business owners need to make a profit, and they want to do something with the property. But I am very concerned about the safety and the impact and the busyness and the street. And I don't know what the city can do, but it's just it's a real concern. And I have no other comments. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Now I know who was shooting at me when I was baling hay there.
Is that it?
Yeah.
You guys can talk after.
I got some papers to hand out.
Just, yeah, you can hand them to that good-looking guy at the end of there in the blue. That's our city attorney.
I turned in a video of everybody that's here.
Just state your name for the record, if you would.
Todd Lineweaver. I turned in a video showing the traffic and how difficult it is to pull in and out of there, just like Brother Bromberger mentioned. And you saw. Do you have any questions for me on that, on the video? Does anybody not see it?
I don't know if Betty did. She was out of town, but I don't know. She may have seen it before.
So no questions on that?
I'm aware of it.
Right, okay. All right, so you can see your decision-making time is not very long because of the curve in that video. And it is a safety concern. I don't live on the street, or Brother Bromberger does, but you have to really be on your toes pulling in and out of there. And if you put 100 cars going in and out of this spot, you're going to have a lineup. On the video, I had people behind me waiting, and that was just from the business.
And then if you take another 50 car, or say 54 units, 2 cars per each, you're going to have a pileup of cars behind you. You end up putting a light on Dixie Drive right there, and it's just right next to the other light. And I think it's kind of poor planning. I think it's something that we might regret doing as a council. Anyway, let's get to this paper. Okay, this is talking about Santa Clara, the development that Santa Clara is doing. This talks about the growth and affordability. It's coming. You know, it's not really a desperate issue. But if you go down to traffic impacts, I've highlighted some things there. This is traffic impacts. Approximately 2,000 houses projected for South Hills. Okay, and they estimate 20,000 vehicle trips per day through downtown Santa Clara. And then go down farther, it says that does not take into account new growth in Ivins and the west part of the county. So 20,000 vehicle trips, not including Ivins and the other growth. And they're probably going to head down Dixie or down Sunset. So, yeah, you think there'd be some other way, you know, to get from point A to point B. But it says, another highlight says, connecting to Dixie Drive. You know, and I don't think I need to say a whole lot more, but Dixie Drive is going to be just a busy road, and I don't think we need to add any more stoplights on a turn. It's right next to another stoplight. I think, personally, I don't exit onto this street, but I would hate to think that everybody that lived in that subdivision that they want built would have to come out at that spot, and that's an extremely dangerous location. And I'm concerned for the city. I love the city. It's a great place, and I think putting stops, willingly approving this tonight, would make Dixie a more dangerous place. Any questions on that? Sorry.
No, we're good. You're fine. Thanks, Todd.
All right, thank you.
And we'll maybe hold some of our comments unless we have questions for later, and we can discuss some of these points, council.
Don't want to be rude, but I thought I better. Being old, you forget about everything. My name is Fred Hokama, and I moved here in 2016 with my wife from Sandy, Utah. We were tired of the snow and the bad weather and things like that, so we were very happy to come, and we were very happy to choose this area. And in choosing the area, I used the typical realtor things like the topical views of the area, determine housing, the density of housing in areas. So I picked my particular spot, Mathis Park Place, as an area that was adjacent to the wetlands, the Santa Clara River, close to parks, and the fact that you had these amenities available just right out your door. You didn't have to drive any place, they were right there. And as I traveled down from the park and through the park and walked through the park, I've looked at that area where the land is vacant. And it's hard for me to imagine, I don't see the pictures up, but 2-story buildings in that spot that is going to fit in with the general view and the aesthetics of the park. Our area is of single units, they're low, and they kind of seem to blend in. So we don't have any other things here that indicate other than just what the buildings look like. It just doesn't seem to me that it's going to fit into the area. Aesthetics I think are important because you have a beautiful park there. In the many things that we are concerned about, and being in the villas, we're approximately, I think, 45 units. Half of those units, as an example, are single women, widows, that live alone, and we count on each other. We minister, we see each other, and say hello, and look after. We do this on a regular basis, and so it's a part of a community and home and family. It's a family away from home. So those are one thing that we're considering that we're concerned about, that the quietness and the unity of the area could be disturbed by, as an example, building 54 units next door. And through some of my calculations, these buildings or the property, the 3-bedroom, 2-story, 1,300 acres. I might add that I had to use a magnifying glass to read this. My vision's not 20/20, but I'm not sure anybody could read the numbers. But being an old person, I had a lighted magnifying glass, so it worked out. The total number of spaces, parking as an example, is 174. It doesn't count any parties and things that might happen or visitors, additional visitors. The other thing of concern is the occupancy of the individual units. The builder has not come forth to us other than contacting us Tuesday to see if they could meet with the people there. It wasn't enough time, and the general feeling was that we had talked about this before with the zoning commission, turned in our petitions stating that we're not in favor of the 54 units. So we did not decide to meet with the developer, given we had Tuesday, Wednesday, and today to get together. The occupancy rate is not listed. Are we looking at 5 kids, 4 kids, 4 in the family? If you have 3 bedrooms, you have 2 and 1, and maybe 2 kids, so that's 4. And that's approximately, as I figured out, 216 people, not counting the vehicles and or visitors. If Uncle Vinny comes and brings his family, there's going to be a few more people added to the whole complex, and parking. Parking will be a problem, I believe. If you have more individuals, 5 per unit, and I don't know how big these families are, they're not necessarily going to be residential, they might be more rental. We don't know that for sure. Are they rentals? You're going to have more kids perhaps. That's another 270 people that's going to be in this area, adjacent to our area, which has less than 50 on a busy day. And I can't talk for the other side, but they're not going to have that many folks, living there because we have a lot of snowbirds and not all the people there all the time. So extra traffic is a problem. I think that perhaps the developer might have taken the time prior to this meeting and the previous one to meet with us earlier so that we can provide more input and perhaps look at his development more favorably. But that was not done, and so we had to decide as an HOA, on the 54 units, which we felt was not going to be a sustainable level in terms of traffic, all the things that are associated with having an increased population of possibly 270 people or even more, depending upon the occupancy rate per unit. We don't know what the unit. Can they have 10 people there? I don't know. What are they allowed? I don't know if that's anybody that the council can answer with that development. Is there a limit? Not that there should be a limit, but I think there's some consideration needs to be looked at in terms of that. There's a lot of things. Again, I think the traffic was brought up, and I personally manage the pool. Our pool person and I talked to him about it, and he mentioned that we are having a possible 54-unit building next door with no pool. he immediately said, that usually means that we're going to have a, quote, pool problem. You know, we're going to have kids, you know, and kids do this, teenagers, whatever, and or young adults, whatever, that we're going to have a problem with that, managing that. We have limited people use it, but certainly that might be a problem with unwanted visitors coming to that pool area at various hours of the day and or night. Because we have many single and widowed women living there, and they're mostly women, there's many concerns that they have about potential, you know, drug use, and I can't judge this because I'm not, statistically, there may be these problems, troubled youth, personal abuse, and sometimes undesirable activities, which can be many things. And I'm not trying to make a judgment on that, but maybe statistically there are just other little problems that come up when you have a large influx of 174, 270 people, or even more people living right next door to you in a confined space that's isolated because it's separated by the park on one side, two complexes on the other side, and a commercial building on the other side, and the only access is this one road in and out. So that one road in and out may not suffice, and we may have people going, quote, you know, over the fence and over the wall. It's a concern. It's a worry. It may happen, may not happen. They may be the nicest people in the world, not do that, but it's a concern. Again, and the other consideration, like I say, the undesirable safe activity and the concerns they have, because like I say, a lot of the units, snowbirds, they're not there all the time. So maybe a third of the units may be vacant various times of the year. And that tend to be a problem. People are going to be looking at that, and there's nobody there. We do our best to watch out for each other, and we do that, and hopefully that helps, but it's a concern that we have. It's a real serious concern that we have. Troubled youth and things, you know, that happens, but it's just the potential for all these things, and the fact that you have this two-story, I'll call it an edifice, you know, just that won't fit into the general nature and ambiance of the whole park. It just will not be right based on the drawings they had on the board. I think the best view is going to be out of your bathroom, or maybe your bedroom, into the park. We'll be right next to the wetlands. It's quiet there, it's nature, it's not disturbed. You see beavers, ducks, all animals of all kinds. And with this other activity so close, basically practically on the wetlands itself, I think that will be affected. That'll affect the quality of life and the things that, well, we're older. Many of us there are older, so we don't have the option of being able to move around town, find a new home. We rely on that property to be of value, especially when we get older. If we have to move, or if we're giving it away to our kids, we hope that we will be giving them something of value that they can rely on or use the money for other things for our kids. We don't want the value of the property to go down, which can very easily happen when you place a high-density project right in the middle, sandwiched between two residential neighborhoods that are planned and developed. Then people reside in it. They're not renters. We have a limited rental limit of, I think, two or three rental units, that's all. So we have a limit on ours. And so the developer has not stated whether it's going to be condominiums or whatever, so I'm anticipating there probably could be a lot of rentals. Is he going to regulate the number of rentals? Is he going to sell them? How are the owners going to manage? Who's going to be responsible for all that activity that goes on? And so we have concerns. We're older, so we look upon you, the City Commission, to provide and to judge and to provide the security and things that make our lives safer, and that we look forward to living a quiet, peaceful life in St. George, which I came down here for, and hopefully that happens here in your decision on this project.
Thank you.
I say thank you.
Thank you, Fred, for all those good points. I'm Vera Chancellor, and I have two questions. My first question is the rental situation in these complexes. We have ourselves in the villas experienced rental problems, and we have actually experienced drugs, violence, all of those kinds of things. It got to the point where some of the owners in our complex were subletting to people in rentals. And we finally had to make a rule in our homeowners to limit it to 5% rental, because otherwise it was getting so out of control. I hate to say these kinds of things, but there were beer cans at the pool, even condoms, things like that that rental people bring in. And I'm not saying that all rental people are that way. I don't want to be discriminatory in that way, but we do have to watch out for that kind of thing. So I would like to know what the rental situation would be in this complex and what kind of rules they would have for guarding against these kinds of problems, because it will destroy the peace and the serenity of the neighborhood. The other thing I would like to ask, and I have a question for you, is I'm concerned about this. I don't know how to get the overall map up, just the overall aerial map of that area, the one that was closer that showed the crash gate. Yeah. We see here, whoops, on the crash gate. Oh, okay. We see over here that this area here is all of the park. And this is, as we know, the fire department wants for a crash gate for safety for fire problems or any other problems that could happen there. My question to you is, because of the terrible situation of this kind of entrance to Dixie Drive, the complications it's going to cause, the safety, as has been pointed out, I'm afraid someone's going to lose their life, actually. But I would want to know if this crash gate would ever be, or someone would come forward and want to renegotiate this crash gate and make it a thoroughfare to relieve this main entrance right here to another entrance into this complex. Because if that were the case, it would be very dangerous for the park because of children skateboarding there, people walking their dogs, you know, the normal things that happen in the park. It would actually destroy the peace and tranquility of the area. So I would need to know if that would ever come up. Can you answer that question?
We can't bind the hands of future councils, but that is certainly not our plan, and we specifically have stated that's not something we would like to see.
But it could be approved.
Lots of things could be.
Yeah.
Like the
And
fact that
that's-
the density was once
Yeah.
about 3
That's
times
why-
this.
Right, thank you. That's why I really feel that this density is way too high. It's stressing the area. It's stressing the area. It's not fair to the whole area. And I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to state that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
I'm going to close the public hearing in just a few minutes, so we'll take a couple more comments.
Let me just quickly, Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mark Allen. I do own a home in the villas also. I kind of agree with everything that's said. My questions have all been asked, especially on that emergency exit. I was a little concerned about that. Safety on the roads, that's all an issue for me. My thought is, put your trust in your planning commission, appointed by the mayor.
Appointed by the council,
With
actually.
the advice and consent of the council. So, put your trust in those gentlemen, ladies that serve on your planning commission. And, they've probably studied this a lot more than you have, and that's their job, and they've done their due diligence. So if you do decide, growth is inevitable, that's for sure. But if you do decide, to approve the PDR for residential, please, go with the recommendations of your planning commission at 30 units. I think that would be a good compromise. So, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Okay. Last two.
This is Larry Skelton, and I do live on Parkside Circle. And I don't know if you've been here, but I have been here for a couple of years now doing this very same thing. We have been told on Parkside Circle that the median would be removed to give us an acceleration lane to get over, heading down Dixie Drive. They said, we don't have it in the budget this year, it'll be done next year. Next year came and went. The next year came and went. And that's something that has not been mentioned that I wanted to bring up to let you know that we have still been waiting for it so that we can get out onto the road and have a place to wait while the cars are coming in back of us, because we've already passed through one major coming to get over to it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, but I just wanted to let you know that we have been told that it's going to be taken care of, but it never has been. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll check on that. Adam, would you make a note of that particular issue, and we can follow up with Cameron, because I don't see him here.
I have. We were just
Okay.
talking amongst ourselves about that,
Okay.
and I believe there's a state statute that may regulate that.
That's
and
what I
we'll
was
have to-
wondering.
We'll have to look into that.
So we will check, and maybe, if you want to give someone your contact information, we could contact you when we have an answer on that. So. Okay. There might be something we could do, if we're not allowed by state law to do one thing, maybe we can do something a little different. So, thank you.
Mayor, I do have clarification, and that is illegal to pull into that median while you're waiting to merge into a travel lane. Did I state that correctly?
So are they a condition that has to remain there?
No,
What do you call it?
No, the medians.
I call it, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
they
the
do
word.
not have to. That would be up to you.
Yeah.
So
to
they could
modify
be,
those.
they could be removed
They could be removed or modified in some
Yeah.
way.
to be legal. We'll check on that. We'll do a little bit further checking. Thank you, Mark, for getting his information. Okay, one more.
Hi, my name is Bob Secuto, and I live at 428 South Parkside Circle. I've been there for 25 years. And just to hit on that safety a little bit, I think, we can talk about 4 subdivisions and the safety. Aliante, Sunbrook up on top of the hill. Sunbrook over by the golf course, the villas, Parkside Circle. We're right there by Valley View. And I think Chris said it was like 50 yards to that. I think it's probably more like about 35 yards. When Marvin Bosch was trying to develop that land, we've been here 3 or 4 times under different zonings for that piece of property. But what I want to say on that, the 2 streets didn't even line up. When we line those 2 streets up, Aliante with the exit and the entrance onto this property that we're talking about, the ranch, what do they call that ranch, where they did the mobile home, the mobile storage. Are you familiar with that? I
Mhm.
think you sat on it, John. I don't know. I think the board has been new here, but I think you've sat on it, what, 3 or 4 times, right?
Oh, yeah, several of us have. This is the second time for, I think,
That has-
everyone.
But that has really helped to line those 2 streets up. But the other thing is, that suicide lane we knew. I can remember Valley View being 2 streets. I mean, Dixie Drive being 2 lanes. Then it went to 4 lanes. And then they put the median in. When they put the median in, that did take that suicide lane away. So there is no way to get out there and get safe. Okay, so that's the one concern.
Kind of an ironic name, huh?
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're familiar with the property, and maybe there is a picture, I don't know how to get to it either.
John will help you.
Where this subdivision that they're planning, the 54 units.
Which one do you?
Yeah, that one. Okay, so right about, you come out of here, and right about here is the old Morris Business Forum building. There is businesses right in here, okay, that they lease out. There's a parking lot right here. All this traffic has to go through a parking lot. Okay, that's a big concern for safety and those people that have the businesses in there. I'm not sure if any of them are here tonight or not. The other thing is, it's going to end up being a private street. Is that right? Is that going to be a
Yeah.
public? Is that going to be a public street?
It's a private street.
Well, a private street is. I live up this way, just a few houses, and the last time the developer, Marv Bosch, and the property owners, when that little road got rough, they filled it with dirt. And that worked pretty good to fill the pothole. And then pretty soon the road with a cheap coat of asphalt to begin with, then it turned out to be a dirt road. I clean my grill and my smoker off every day, and the air quality was pretty poor. But then the other thing that I really have concerns about, it is a beautiful park. And we talk about, I didn't know that there was a problem, or if there is a problem for low-income housing in St. George. I personally feel as though we don't have to put all of it in 6 acres. And we cut the cost down, and we got 3 bedrooms, and who knows how many people we're going to have in those. The integrity of this neighborhood. And what I'm really concerned is, we got a beautiful park in Mathis Park that was donated, and I just don't think that integrity of that park can stand that much traffic. And I'm not quite sure what kind of traffic would be back there. I think it's a bad environment because there's only one way in and one way out. Now, if the city would want to give up some of that parkland and get 2 exits out here, I think it would help. But is that still going to help the traffic problem for 4 different subdivisions on Dixie Drive? I don't believe it will. I'll conclude with that.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. John, would you mind coming back up? This is John Willis, our city planner. Could you just clarify a little bit for us? Currently, under the current zoning, what are the types of things that could go in this area? And
To clarify that, it is now
commercial.
So right now, this PDR/R, the R is actually expired, and so it's currently PDC. And so in this area, you have a lot of these warehouse uses could go in there. You could do more of the U-Haul type uses. And so any of those commercial uses that were approved in this area could be expanded to be included in this PDC area.
What would the building height allowable be?
So the building height on a standard, whether it's single family or manufacturing or industrial, is 35 feet.
What would the required setbacks be against the 3 boundaries?
So they'd be more likely be 20 feet on these sides, regardless if it was commercial or any type of other use.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Betty. Mm-hmm.
Do you have more with them?
Well, I have some comments, but you go.
Ahead. No, you go ahead.
John, you can sit down, I think, for now. A couple things I'd just like to say. First of all, as you just heard, I think you got to consider what the alternatives might be. Something someday is going to be built in this area. And, you know, market conditions being whatever they are at the time, you know, that kind of ends up driving, pardon the pun, what might locate there. So we've just talked about the height, and so height, be careful what you ask for, you know. I'm not sure what you might think of your neighbor if it was truly a commercial neighbor back there that's currently warranted, if you will. Traffic and safety, I think those are the key issues that we all share. We share those concerns. We all know, because it's been defined as such, Dixie Drive is going to be more, it's going to get busier and busier. It will. To the extent that I hope someday that probably long past the time I'm sitting here in this seat, I might be sitting in your seat, I think there will be a western corridor that will link St. George, Ivins, Santa Clara, and take some of those, many of those cars around and down in or through or around Sun River to I-15. So we don't know all the answers and what will happen at what time. It's even possible that in some parts of this road, Dixie Drive, could be widened, could be 3 lanes each way. You know, a lot of that used to be, and even when I was a kid, I didn't grow up here, but I visited here and came to Green Valley, and it was dirt road, Jimmy, wasn't it? Joe, there was a lot of dirt road on there, so there's no doubt, and the people that have been here longer than I have, I've been here just 23 years, they've seen all these changes, and you have too. How many of you were born in St. George? Raise your hands. There are 3 in this room. So we're all part of the problem, folks. We shouldn't have come. Okay? So I think, I might be sounding like a father here right now, but there are some of these things I'm concerned about, and I'm a little troubled, to be honest. I have to tell you, I'm a little troubled by some of the things that have been said today. We are talking about somewhere between 30, perhaps to 54 units, and this is really far from high density. And when you talk about spreading this kind of housing, which we desperately need, when you talk about spreading it around, that's what this is doing. We approved not too long ago 90 units up on the corner of Curly Hollow and Tonnequint. And it's going to be similar to this, a fantastic opportunity for families of different ages and sizes to have an option other than a $350,000 house. We've got to have some of this, and it is spreading it around. And I think, I feel bad that you are that concerned about who your neighbors might be. I want you to think about that. I'm embarrassed, frankly. You talk about ministering. There are people that need these homes. And so you're within your rights to have the concerns, but there are people that need these homes, and we can't put them away from everybody. They've got to be throughout the community so that we can all do our part, so that we can share, and so that we can be, frankly, blessed by the people that will come to live there. And it's wrong for us to judge who might be there. It is wrong, and one of you said that. Let's don't do that. That's not who we are. So anyway, I don't appreciate that, and I don't think that's the thing we ought to be worried about. I think those folks that are in need, and I was in an apartment for the first 4 years of my marriage. I'm sure grateful that I had options to do that in Salt Lake City. So I hope that you'll think about that a little bit. Something is going to be there, and we previously put a lot of thought into this, all of us, and it was decided to be 54 units. We'll see what the council decides to do today. I think there are things with traffic we know we're going to have to pay attention to and work on over the years. And we hear your concerns, we share them. The chief of police is back there. He's working hard, and all of our police officers are working hard. And some welcome it, some don't, to enforce our traffic laws. We've got to get people to slow down, and we've got to get people to not drive distracted and to pay attention to the curves on this road. We understand that, and so we will certainly be with you on that and trying to find ways that we can make this as safe as we can, no matter what the council decides today. So anyway, I've said enough speechifying, but council, any
I wanted
comments?
to clarify one thing. These aren't low-income housing. There is a difference between affordable. I don't know too many low-income people who can afford a $200,000 townhome. And we just put this stigma on people. There are a lot of things I heard too that I just sat here and it took a lot to bite my tongue of what we expect is going to move in there. I don't think there's one person in this room that didn't have to start a family by renting somewhere or being able. My oldest son started in a $200,000 townhome. They were lucky and saved a lot of money before they got married to put a down payment on to have something they owned. And it wasn't riffraff in there. I have riffraff, and I live in a really nice neighborhood, but there's a home behind me that is riffraff. And they're not renting, they own that home. So I grew up in this area. And I wish it could be the same as it was in 1978 when I moved here. And one point was made that, Fred, you moved here in 2006. This was already zoned.
16.
In 2016. This was zoned in 2015 for 54 units. So when you moved here, it was already zoned for that. And that zoning expired. But that's all I have to say.
Well, any other, Betty?
Mayor, I certainly agree with a lot of you and all of you in a way. I know the sincerity of these people, and frankly, I have gone over and parked and watched the traffic. I've been concerned about this particular location since it's been coming before us. It's just a bad place as far as traffic and safety, and it scares me. I don't even want to go there for those reasons. But I think there's a compromise, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance change with 30 units. I know that's not the 54, but I just think there's certain places where we don't need to just put more and more and more and exacerbate the problem. I just think that there's a compromise, so you'll have to deal with that motion. You can do what you will with it.
Okay, we have a motion by Betty. Is there a second?
Mayor, I wanted to ask John a question before you move on that motion.
Sean, as a matter of procedure?
He can clarify
Okay.
something with staff if you allow him to.
Okay, go ahead.
John, I just want to confirm that as it stands now, that PD commercial zoning that exists there now, they could come in there and build a storage or a warehouse type of facility in that as it stands now.
They could. That is one of the uses on the front. They'd have to come before city council,
Right.
look at the site plan and other things, but that is something that could be requested.
Okay. In that case, Mayor,
Any other clarifications
So-
since we're...
So is that the motion that was passed by Planning Commission?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Betty and a second now by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion?
Were there any other conditions from Planning Commission? I just want to make sure we don't miss anything.
I would include staff's conditions as part of them. They didn't include it, but I would include those.
Including the staff conditions.
Okay, Jimmy? Okay, so that's the motion and the second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to clarify with Sean or John, if the developer does not like that decision that's been proposed, does he have a long delay before he could come back with another one? Is it one of those significant changes that would have to be made, or what?
We would follow the code, which the code requires 1 year unless there's a significant change, and the significant change is determined by city council. Usually it's a density or a different type of zone is what triggers the significant change.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other
So-
comments?
So additional clarification then, maybe you don't want to go yet, John?
We should put a seat right there for
We're
you,
totally
John.
wearing him out.
Wait, try that again. No.
Getting your steps in.
So I don't want to be arbitrarily saying, hey, this is what we approve. I don't really like that from the Planning Commission. But that being said, is that something that was agreed to because the developer felt like that would work, or do we know?
No. So what the Planning Commission did in their discussion, they looked at the density of this development here and the density of this development, and based on that, they determined that a 5 units an acre would be, kind of between each of those.
And just for the record, so we can indicate when you're saying this development, you mean the adjacent existing developments?
That is correct.
Home development.
Each of the developments on the northern and the southern portion of the property.
Okay.
Any other questions? Clarifying questions?
Let's wait till John sits down.
Okay.
I have a feeling he'll be back up here.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
It is going to be tough for us to make it at 30 units. So if that comes down to the decision, is it at that point too late to do the commercial? Do I have to wait a year or whatever to bring commercial or something in to try to make this?
Would you prefer a denial?
I'm not sure at this point. The way I look at it is I'd much rather have a Honda Civic pulling out on the road instead of a semi-truck or a box truck or something to that effect. But if that's where it leaves us, I don't want to close the door on,
Let's let Mr. Willis clarify.
And so right now it's zone PDC. If it were to be approved as the PDR at 30 units an acre, they would have to amend the general plan because the general plan shows as residential. And so if it was a denial, the PDC stay would remain. They'd have to come back forward with their site plan and their layout. However, if it's approved as a PDR and they want to come back as commercial, they'd have to change the general plan.
So we were having another related conversation here, and we just wanted to point out for the record that the decision made by the council tonight will be final. That will be, whatever you pass is the new zoning for the property. So if that is not acceptable by the applicant could, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, withdraw the zoning petition at this time. Otherwise, that zoning is going to change.
Yeah. So
That's my question. I don't want to put him in a corner. I mean, he's going from at $200,000 a unit from just shy of $11 million to $6 million. So if that's not going to make it, then I want you to say no, and maybe that would be the determining factor. I mean, I want to try to help you out a little. And just so the council knows, I was here and probably approved that original 54 units. But this first gentleman that got up way back at the beginning of this public hearing got me thinking really seriously about the distance between Parkside Circle and the outlet to this 54 units, and if that's really going to work safety-wise. And that's why I'm concerned. And I do agree with some of the other things that were said. I feel bad being one heavily involved in affordable housing. Yes, we need affordable housing. And whoever said it's not an issue, I'm sorry, it is an issue. School teachers, and it's not some of the things that you said. It's not these undesirables. It's school teachers, police officers, and people like that. However, I do look at this and say we have one way in and one way out, and I am concerned, and that's why I'm willing to take a look at that. But if that's not going to work for the developer and it's a moot point, and then I'm willing to say maybe I would make a motion, I would withdraw my second, make a motion to deny the zone change outright. And I know that's putting you on the spot, but.
I guess I'm a little confused with how much difference it would make whether it's 30 units or 54. It's mainly a site issue there. From the entrance from those subdivisions, correct, on Dixie Drive entering. So whether it's one car pulling out or it's a semi-truck pulling out or what it is, it's the same problem no matter what the density is. Briefly talking with the engineers, you know, the difference of those few houses, those few units in traffic is minimal, very minimal. It's not like we're adding, 20 cars every 15 minutes out of there. It's very minimal. So the difference between the 30 and the 54 is where I'm just not
Roughly
quite
double.
seeing. I'm not quite seeing what the traffic wise.
Sorry, we're not taking any more comments.
So what was your answer?
We need to know from you, Troy, whether you would like us to proceed with this I don't know what the vote will be. And so the vote, if the motion passes, then it will be zoned PD residential. Is that what it is? 30 units. That's what the motion is. You essentially start over. If you'd have to wait a year, you'd have to come back and not only before you got zoning, you'd have to try to get the general plan amended to go back to commercial.
So
you could leave it residential and just ask for more density.
Even now, it's not commercial, correct? Or it can't
It
because
is.
it's general plan.
It is commercial.
It is commercial.
Okay.
It's commercial today.
Mayor, before we vote on Jimmy's thing to deny it and then put his motion forward, do we have to act on Betty's motion first?
We're not to that point yet. Jimmy said he would possibly do that. He hasn't done that.
Okay.
Can we split the difference and meet somewhere?
That's exactly what I
Cafe
was
Rio?
trying to do. If 30 is too low, I just think, I'm not feeling better about anything. And the things that were said aren't great, but the area hasn't changed. I sat there and watched it. I wouldn't want to live there. So I think that maybe if there's a better compromise, I'd be happy to hear it. I would.
I bought the place from a realtor that actually lives in the subdivision. His wife's up here protesting.
They told you you'd always have a view, didn't they?
And, he promised me the moon. He's
Yeah.
the one that kept, pressing that
Yeah.
secondary access, that you can get 44 units or 54 units. So when we budgeted this, we actually budgeted it on 50 units. And if we got the 54, would be great. So that's where we've been. But since then, of course, the economy's went up, the price of everything's gone up, permits has gone up. So, right at that 48, 50 units, we're pushing it to even come out. So, it's a tough decision. I didn't realize I'd probably have to make this decision tonight, whether to put our family's money out on the line or what I'm doing. That's why I was trying to visit with my son real quick to see what we should do. But we could make a swing at like 48 and 50, but at 30, I don't see that. And just to clarify, if we decide to stay with the commercial, then we can sell it or we can build commercial buildings there as of right now. We could start tomorrow.
That's correct. You'd have to bring some things
Drawings
to us,
in.
but yeah, we couldn't stop you from the uses.
Was the
And
planning,
which is a bummer because we've spent a fortune getting everything ready. We've got drawings ready. We're ready to start building now. And
was the planning commission's recommendation for 30 just based on was it on traffic alone? Was that the reason?
actually,
Adjacent
the planning commission voted, I believe, 5 times, which a couple of the members weren't there as well. I was not there. Again, I was under maybe my fault for sure. I assumed that this would be, it's just expired, we can get this 54 units back, or else I probably would never invested our family's money in it, to tell you the honest truth. So that's kind of where we sit. I don't know if, 48 units, 50 units would be there.
There is another option, and that's that you could ask us to table it to give you time to think about it. So those are kind of our options.
Is there any option for like 50 units?
It's up to the council. We have a motion and a second, so it's right now, I mean, I could call, or someone could call the question, we could have the vote, or the motion and second could reconsider and make substitute motions. So,
My problem is with 30 units, you're basically putting in a subdivision, correct? Okay? We all know that's not, you got the commercial building in front, it's not a stone cliff you're driving into there. I mean, reality is, it's not ever going to be a custom home type subdivision. And trying to sell that at a reasonable price is next to impossible. So that's where I'm at. And if we could go to 50 units, 49 units, somewhere in there.
so I'm going to ask Betty, are you willing to change your motion in any way, or would you rather us leave it the way it is?
Well, no, I'm willing to change it because there's somewhere between 54 and 30 that I would hope would work, and we could go forward with this, and the builder could, and the residents would feel good about it.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, so we no longer have a second. We do have a motion for the 30 and the conditions that Planning Commission recommended. Is there willingness to change that, or is there a new second to the motion?
I will change the motion to 40.
I would second that.
45 units.
Now you're going up.
45 units?
Well, she said 40, now it's 45.
40, okay, 40. Going once, going twice.
Okay, so we have a new motion that's 40 units. We have a second at 40. Okay, any discussion on that?
I'd still
It's
like.
a bidding war now.
Yeah, I'd like the developer to come back with a plan that works for him.
That's what
personally.
I think.
I make a motion to table this.
Well,
We can't
do that?
Can't do that yet.
No,
You can, Mayor,
I
you
could
can,
say that.
you can vote on that motion. However, I think if the concern is the number of units and whether there's something that you can help alleviate the impacts that have been expressed here and that you have concerns on, that it probably would be best to table it and allow the developer to go back and see if there is the applicant to see if there's a number that they would propose that works, and you can consider it at the
Okay.
next date that you
Do they
set
have to
for.
go back through Planning Commission?
No.
I remove my first motion, I guess another
Substitute
new
motion.
motion to table this item for tonight.
Second.
Is there a period of time? You want to make it next meeting?
That would be up to the developer, and I see he's probably got some engineering friends with them to see when they could, if they could figure this out in 2 weeks, or if they need longer before they come back.
Yes, representing the developer.
Yes, Mayor.
As the developer, Rick Rosenberg with Rosenberg Associates, representing Mr. Wall. Changing the density changes the application. If we drop down to 40 units or 30 or 45, whatever the bidding war ends at, that's probably going to change the product mix. That change in the product mix hasn't been looked at by the Planning Commission. Do we have to go all the way back through the start with a new mix to come forward? Does that make sense? I mean, this is laid out for fourplexes with carports and the amenity area that you've got set up. When you reduce that down, you're going to increase the available area that could be developed. The mix could change to a threeplex, maybe even twin homes. that changes price point, amenities all change. The whole PD, that planned development zone now is completely different from the one that's gone through the process. That's my question.
Okay, so my answer would be, are you working for your client there, or you, because really what you're saying is you think it ought to go back to the planning
No, I'm
commission.
not saying it should.
Because what
I'm
I'm
just
saying,
saying that it will probably, anything other than the application, the applicant never made an application for 30 units.
but here's where I disagree with you, and that is that the recommendation from the planning commission is just that, a recommendation. This council has the ability to look at that recommendation, decide, no, we want to go with the full number of units they originally applied for, or something in between, and state their reasons why. So that doesn't change if they table it. All it merely is doing is moving it from this meeting to another meeting where it's just as tonight, where they can consider all of this. So
So
I
it'll be the
disagree
same,
with your
it'll be
analysis.
the same discussion.
It's the same discussion.
The same plans,
Now,
everything.
the number of units, that may change, and they say if they change it, they can, and you say it's going to change the elevations that you presented?
I'm saying it could,
Okay, and if it does, then you will need to present those.
and it'll have to go back. So it's basically this.
No, I disagree with you. I think it would come back to the council.
Come back to council.
Yes.
That was my question.
Okay.
And I question that a little. I know you're the legal expert here. But if they had something designed and came back in with another design, which is what they're gonna have to do with 30 units, it can't even, I mean, they're not just gonna say, okay, I won't build that one and that one and that one. They're gonna have to redesign it. And so I question, can it still come back here with a redesign?
I think the council has the ability to remand it to the planning commission, but I think that would be at your discretion.
And I would agree with that, because at the planning commission level, when the planning commission took the vote to only approve 30, did they see new elevations at that time of only 30 units? They did not. And so, following that logic, you would have to, the planning commission would have said, no, you've got to bring this back with 30 units. They don't have the ability to do that. They only make a recommendation, and their recommendation was 30 units.
So in other words, let's say we approve 30 units, it could look like anything it wants to be then.
No, I would disagree. They either have to have the same elevations they have now, or come back with those elevations at 30 units if they're going to change.
Come back to council.
That's right.
And we keep saying 30 units, whatever the number of units, but it's just whatever you come back with, then the council is going to decide.
I agree
whether
with
to
the
approve
city
it.
manager. If you feel comfortable, if you feel more comfortable in remanding that to the planning commission and say, but the planning commission will want to know what number. I mean, if they go back to the planning commission, they're going to have a number in order to show elevations, if, according to Mr. Rosenberg, they're going to change it.
You know, one of the challenges is the traffic. It doesn't matter if we put 2 houses in there or 150. We're always going to have that challenge. So what is the optimum?
Make sure when
number
you
of
come back,
units?
a nice diagram of how Alianta Drive is going to line up with that access road, and how that's going to work onto Dixie Drive. Because that's a lot of the concern, is the safety right there of trying to bring however many people, whether it's box trucks or 54 units, how they're going to come out of there on one access road.
And that's frankly what I have been hearing from people, other than tonight. They would have been better off not to say those things tonight. But anyway, is that they're just worried about how they get out on that. I think I would have appreciated a better plan of how this is actually going to work, how they're going to come out onto that road.
Because you can't deny, if you look at Parkside Circle, and that, wherever that access is going to be, there are two, and then whatever it's called, Alianta Drive.
Yeah, so as of right now, the entrance into that property is directly across
We need
from
to,
Atlanta Drive.
yeah, we probably need to move this along.
So,
We've got a motion on the table. so.
One last thing, and then I'll shut up and sit down. If we have to reconfigure, say, to whatever we reduce this down to. That makes our open space tremendous. I mean, we'll have more grass than Mathis Park in there to try to maintain. Can we get a motion for, like, running it by the sun, Can we get like 48 and call it done and be done tonight, or?
I haven't heard that motion yet. What I've got right now, I think, is a motion to table it.
You've got 54 units and 4 units. And even if we went to 48, that's 1.5
Yeah.
houses, 1.5 buildings.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be tabled.
So, did we not have a motion to table it? And a second, that was by, was it Betty, or was it you? And Ed? Any more discussion on the motion?
One other discussion on it. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. It will not be a public hearing again then?
That's correct. Unless we choose to make it one, we've met the requirements.
And you could always choose to do that, just as the city manager said, you could always choose to remand it back to the planning commission with a new number proposed by the applicant and the elevations.
So I think what the council is saying is, if this motion passes, is to come back with your best number, I guess. Request your best number, whatever that is, and then we'll consider that. And not that we're bound to that, but does that make sense, council? Is that what I'm... And the traffic issue, of course, and the alignment of the both sides of the road, if you will. That's the other issue that several have expressed.
Exactly.
All in favor of the motion? Let's see, I'm just tabling. So starting with Betty, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. We didn't set a time. You are coming back to the city council, though, because I didn't hear that otherwise in the motion. So 2 weeks if you want to. You can take longer if you need to. Well, you're welcome to come. It's a public meeting. Well, not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily is it a public hearing. We may choose to allow public comment, but, you know. Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 7, public hearing consideration of an ordinance amending the general plan for properties generally located on Canyon View Drive, LDR to MDR, medium density residential, on approximately 0.81 acres. The property is generally located east of 1775 West and Canyon View Drive. So this is an application that the City Council heard in 2016. This application was denied at that time. The applicants waited beyond the 1 year time frame, and they've resubmitted the application for the City Council's consideration. So this is the area. This is Dixie here. It's located right along Canyon View, Dixie Drive. It's located right here. This is Canyon View. You can see the arrow points to the two lots. So this is the general plan. You can see the MDR is located around the property. What they're requesting is to extend this MDR to these 2 lots here. The existing zoning on the property is R110, which is LDR, and LDR and R110 is 10,000 square foot single family lots. Existing zoning in the area, you got PDR to the south and you got R3 located to the east. This is a close-up of each of these lots. Couple views. It's these properties located here. This is the existing plat. So this is part of a single-family plat, and so these lots would have to be amended and extracted from the plat. Planning Commission. During the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant stood up and voluntarily to restrict each of the properties to two duplexes. And so the planning commission, they took that into consideration. They made a recommendation of approval with the condition that it's 2 lots per unit, so 4 lots total, and no short-term rentals, no lot splits. The deed restriction is to be recorded with the conditions acceptable to the city prior to the amendment being valid. Just to give an idea on these lots, you could have between 4 to 7 units on these 2 lots in the MDR land use category. That concludes staff's presentation on this item.
Thank you, John. Before you sit down, any questions? Everyone knows where this is, what we're talking about. Okay. Then we'll open the public hearing for anyone who's come to express input on this item, which is number 7 on our agenda. And when you come forward, if you just state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Dennis Judd. I have a unit just on top of the hill, just on top where this unit is supposedly going to be built. I have had a unit up there now for 20 plus years, raised a family up there, and had several kids live there and go to school. And we're concerned about the stability of the hill, because this hill is very steep, as most of you know. And we want to make sure the hill will be stabilized to where it won't be given away, or our units on top will have a chance of sliding off. And also we're concerned about losing our view. We want to know we never have been told the height of these buildings if they're going to destroy our beautiful view that we have, that we've enjoyed over these last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's John Gibb. I live 1775, so right next to these 2 lots. We built the home we're at, and you know, you follow engineering, and things work out. You know, we've been there with no concerns with our property. I think the condition is really good. I think the building is important to the community. The previous rejection 2 years ago, I think was appropriate. It took away the residential feeling that we bought into. You know, the carport style garages, the multiple units. We did buy into a residential phase 5 in Green Valley. So I think the compromise with the 2 units per lot being, if I understand that correctly, it would be like a twin home per lot. Is that the way I understand it?
Roughly. I mean, it technically could be a little bit higher than that, but you're probably looking at a couple twin homes, correct?
If it was a twin home that included an attached garage, so it kept the residential feeling, I would be 100% supportive of that. I think it wouldn't take away from any values or anything like that. So.
This is general plan at this point, right? So we'd be back a couple times before, and that happens, but probably pretty likely to happen that way.
Okay.
Just to clarify it, the area to the east of those 2 lots is now R3.
Yeah.
Which will probably be different than those 2 lots will end up being. So in my mind, that's a pretty good transition from your place to the R3.
Of course. And, when we bought the property, Las Palmas was behind us. There's no secrets. We knew, where we were at, but just trying to protect as much as we can. Canyon View Drive used to have that corner on it, and now it's a straight shot. And we love all the vacationers, but they're so excited to get to their condo for the weekend. A lot of people are cruising up the street, and it's good. We're set back off the street 50 feet or so, which is probably a good thing. We enjoy that the neighborhood. So if you would consider a good transition, like you mentioned, trying to maintain a residential feel, we would appreciate it.
And when they come down the hill, they're probably not near as excited, so they're not going so fast.
Well, I was hoping, a speed bump or something, give them a jump, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibb. Others? Is the applicant here, and would they like to say anything?
Yes, I would. My name's Scott Oakey. I've owned these lots for the past several years. I just think it's very important that I did meet and discuss with my adjacent neighbors, and they had no objection. In fact, they were very supportive when I showed them what I was.
If you would, yeah. Very nice. Even though this is still general plan, thank you.
That's
So
nice.
picture worth worth a thousand
Sure.
of my words. And since we've been running late, I'd rather say less and just let the picture do its talking. But with regards to the community of the multifamily behind me there, the 70-foot different elevation. We're going to be well below the 35-foot max, probably right around 30 foot for that. And the garage comes in from the lower level there. And a lot of thought and effort's been put into my design, my proposed design there, to make it look more like residential and to fit in and greatly enhance the neighborhood. I initially even had I had all my geotechnical studies, so I'm well aware of the expansive clay soils. It just didn't work out doing a single-family residence there, not even close, because I'm looking at an additional $50,000 per structure just to do the micro-pier and grade beam foundation system for a structure there. One thing, just it's important to include there, the city attorney at the planning commission meeting there threw in some other verbiage that we never had a chance to discuss. My intent and desire, as we all agreed, was to limit that to a twin home per lot. As we all know, the nightly rentals is not allowed, so that's something that doesn't even really need to be interjected there. And the fact is, I do seek to have the lot lines so that these units could be sold individually, deeded and titled individually to separate owners, and not force me to only be able to consider renting and that. So I think that's important, and I'd like to at least have that opportunity to clarify and clean up and simplify the verbiage on the deed restriction, which I'm very happy, and I've committed to my neighbors and commit to the Plan Commission and the council here, to limit my density only with the deed to a townhome per lot, or 1 unit if you divide up into 4, each lot into half, so 1 unit there. But
So you wanna
they're
be able to-
adjoining twin homes.
You want to be able to sell each unit individually. So if you have a twin home on a lot, you want to be able to sell each one of them,
Correct.
not retain ownership of
Correct.
them.
I plan on retaining the 1 unit closest to my neighbors, the Gibbs, and that, but based on economic needs or in the marketplace there, I do want to have the ability to sell the units individually instead of having to sell the whole thing.
Yeah, this condition doesn't say he can't.
Well, and again, we're still talking general plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we want to encourage those to be able to be sold individually. And
Right.
so I think the key was that 2 duplexes on each lot was the key, not so much the configuration of a future potential plat.
So as a general plan amendment, can we put those kind of conditions at this point?
The applicant has volunteered to put those restrictions on his property.
Okay.
And so I'll let Sean, if he wants to expand on that, but.
Mr. Guzman.
Just a comment on it, John, though, and just so I'm clear on it. Let's say there's only 1 lot.
Yeah, because things can change. Ownership can change.
Can you sell that one side and the other side separate? Because there won't be a lot split between them. I mean, they'll be hooked together. I guess it's no different than a twin home, is it?
Exactly. No, you
Okay.
can have a lot line between the 2 essentially,
Yeah.
and so you can sell them. You can do that. There's a lot of configurations to do
Okay.
that, but.
I didn't know that.
Anything else, Sean, that you'd comment on?
No, if the applicant is volunteering to do that, then you can place that requirement on them.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified and said, if it all being bunched together and with those additional cumbersome limitations, then I'd have to go back and start the process all over again.
I would,
So
we prefer that too, I think. So, but another question, is this not in the resort overlay area?
Not really.
Not at present time, no.
I would say that's correct.
Okay. I'll take that as a no.
My yes is a no.
Well, because that would mean you could, if you were in the resort overlay, it could be nightly rentals, is my point, so.
Right, and to that end, if the restriction of rental or nightly rental there was in, and then 5-10 years down the road, that area is incorporated in there, why should I be the only kid on the block, guy on the block, that is permanently restricted from participating in that?
I hear you.
As it is right now, it's a moot point. Nightly rentals are not allowed on that, so it does need to be additional verbiage in my restrictive covenant there that I am willing to place on the deed. We're just, and for the general plan, I'm limiting it to a total of 4 units overall between the two lots, or if we call it 4 lots, 1 unit per lot, basically. I'm going to do I intend to do the twin home.
Sean?
I would agree with one of the statements, and that is, if our ordinance doesn't allow it, then we could, as difficult as it is, enforce that ordinance. But someday, should our ordinance change and they would become available to rent, they would have to come back and get that restriction removed. So
So why would we have to do that if it's not allowed anyway?
that's my point.
That is what he's saying, yep.
So you're saying,
Why put a restriction on if,
okay, I agree with that.
yes,
Yeah.
because if it's
My-
already,
I think the restriction ought to be 2 units on each lot.
I think that is the biggest concern.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Perfect.
any other comments from the public? Then I'm going to close the public hearing and come back to you, council, see if you're ready for a motion or any further discussion. Hopefully,
Goes with number 22, right? No?
that's a,
Oh,
next one.
yeah, I'm one ahead of myself, sorry. I thought we were almost done.
So go ahead, Joe, and I'll second your motion.
I would make a motion, make sure I get this semi-right.
Because you want to have that recommendation, how you want it.
And I will, yeah.
Okay.
I think we should amend the general plan for those properties on Canyon View Drive to MDR on approximately .81 acres, and that we have the deed restriction that only 2 buildings are put on each lot, and eliminate the no short-term rentals
Language.
condition that we had on there.
Right, so really the motion is just to have the one condition, which is the 2 units per
And the
lot.
other one, we did have no lot split.
And
You don't even have to, is what
I don't
Sean's
think you
saying.
have, right, I don't think you need to.
You just say what you're
I just think
approving.
the number of units, which is what you said earlier, is
If I
correct.
was supposed to say, I say it.
I seconded whatever Joe said.
So that's 2 units on 1 lot.
Per lot.
Per lot.
Nothing mentioned about that. We have a motion by Joe and a very clear second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, neighbors, for coming. We're going to have a short recess. is fine.
It'll never work with 30, never. If he's lucky, it'll work with 48, and that won't change the game. But whether it's 30 years or 54, it's gonna be the same way. The numbers are nothing. It means nothing.
Those folks that live there, I've talked to them, but that guy can get it, storage or warehouse now, that's what they may have to do. They're gonna have to look for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put a gate.
But you gotta have housing for these young families. You're right, we all started out with little apartments.
All right, guys, let's go.
We're back in black. Huh? Jimmy knows it. Yeah. Michelle knows it. I can't sing it, but maybe John could. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I can't even do that anymore. All right. We are back, and yeah, we'll go to, are we ready to go to number 8, or are we wanting to go to that one we skipped yet? No? Are you still?
We are ready if you would like to go back to item number 2.
I think we might as well go to number 2.
Sorry.
I'd rather go backwards now than later. I'll feel really bad.
Oh, yes. I'm going to pass these down, and we'll try to get everyone up to speed here. So in our last meeting, we approved amendment number 2 to the Tech Ridge Purchase and Option Agreement, and we gave you a little bit of a heads up at that time that there would be an amendment number 3. Here it is. Amendment number 3 seeks to do a couple of things. As we stated, one of those items would be setting the value for that park parcel, which was identified in this exhibit. It's the 1.17 acres. Again, just to reiterate for the record, this does not include any of the landscaped area of the Black Hill View Park. So it's the 1.17 acres. In amendment number 3, you'll see that section 1A sets forth the agreed upon value, $187,200. That's based upon the acreage at the $160,000 per acre, which was the value set forth in the original purchase and option agreement. So the key here that we just wanted to clarify, city agrees to convey the park parcel to Tech Ridge concurrent with Tech Ridge's purchase of the Tech office parcel. So going back to that original agreement, the Tech office parcel, that's the first portion of land that they're purchasing from the city. At the time that they do that, we will convey the park parcel to them. We're recognizing the value of that at $187,200. However, this would not increase the total dollar amount that Tech Ridge would be purchasing the property for. Does that make sense? So essentially, we're including the park parcel within the Tech office parcel at the original price, but we are recognizing a value of the contribution of that land.
And the park is going nowhere.
And the park is going nowhere, correct?
Including the trees and stuff.
Correct.
Those are all being preserved.
That's right.
So you got it, I'm sorry, I won't say. The $187,000 is not included in the original base price.
That's correct. That's correct. What is being requested here and what this amendment is trying to do is to clarify the fact that we are recognizing a value in that parcel that the city is contributing in recognition of the overall value that the development is creating.
Great. Any questions on that part of it?
The second portion, number 2 of the amendment, what we've done is we've gone back and we've taken some language that was originally in in the original purchase and option agreement. We've restated it here. We've added a few things. For example, item number F. So if you'll go to that second page, item number F, this is the value. I mentioned this at our last meeting as they go in and they reconstruct Tech Ridge Drive. And it is a distance, it's noted there, of 1,985 feet, about halfway down the page. The roadway improvements is what we're calling those. We are recognizing the value of those improvements at $993,895. That dollar amount has been vetted by Public Works. We've looked at the engineer's estimates. We've said these numbers are all correct. And so as the developer performs that work, that value is being recognized as an in-kind contribution by the developer towards the purchase price of the property. These other items that you see in there, items A through E, and then items F.
We have two Fs.
There's two Fs.
We will correct that. Thank you. Great catch. Those items all existed in the original purchase and option agreement. We're just restating them here. It made sense where that section dealt with in-kind improvements to just rewrite it and include the Tech Ridge Drive improvements.
PDQ.
Correct. Finally,
Or pretty darn quick.
I'm seeing a conversation here and I'm wanting to know if
Sidebar.
I should continue or I will continue. Okay, and then finally, the last portion there, what we are planning to do is the developer will set up an escrow account with the city, cash escrow, so that when they go to begin building that road, just like on any project, we would have an escrow or sometimes a bond, but in this case, cash escrow that the city would have access to. And then for the value of those improvements, as the developer builds the road, they do have the option for partial release of that escrow. So again, that's fairly standard. And what we're trying to do here is to allow those credits to be applied as that work is done. Again, this is an in-kind contribution. Correct.
So they're going to put that in escrow.
Correct.
Make
So-
sure the check clears.
Yeah, they do have a credit balance here too, so it gives them some options of how to do that in the original agreement. So.
But that is the essence of amendment number 3.
Awesome.
The engineer's estimate has been reviewed. Yes, they have been looked at. Wes is nodding his head yes. I was hesitant to answer because I have not seen them, but Wes says he's seen them, and that's good enough for me.
I'm Craig Coates with Alliance Consulting. So currently, the plans have been approved for the utilities and the grading, and they're still under review for the full street section of what that roadway will be. It's 3 or 4 lanes. I don't know. I can't remember.
Correct.
Well, but potential in the future. Potential in the future, 4 lanes.
But the width is
wide enough for 4 lanes, but 2 currently right now.
We do. That's part of the engineer's estimate. I think what he's alluding to is the fact that we do have some flexibility within that right-of-way section.
Restripe later. Any other questions for Adam or staff? Yes, I'm ready for a motion unless there are other questions.
Or do you want
No
me
question?
Oh.
Okay. Motion to approve amendment number 3 to the purchase and option agreement between the city and Tech Ridge LLC.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Anything else needed, Sean? I think we're good. We'll just make that one change in the letter, and otherwise everything's good.
There will be a couple of changes here in references, but it won't change the substance of
Okay.
this agreement.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
That takes us to item 8 and then item 22 if you're...
Let's do it.
circling.
Let's go to 8.
Okay, item 8 is a request for hillside development permit to allow development of a proposed single-family residential development called Banded Ridge. Purpose of this project is to develop 21 residential lots in compliance with the hillside ordinance. Owner is Quality Development, representative is Steve Kamlowski. Site is located approximately 3750 South Banded Hills Drive. Zone is R110. So basically, here is 3000 East right here, and here's the proposed project. Here's the project showing the zoning on there of R110. These are some pictures looking, gosh, I want to say easterly along Banded Hills Road, and then these are looking south and west of the property. And again, just some more photos looking kind of to the southwest of the subject site. These are looking, so this is Airport Hill right here. So we're looking to the east, and then up on top is obviously where that part of the airport where the hangars are and so forth. And then again, this is looking more to the southeast with the property. This is kind of the edge of the property right here, and again, Airport Hill right here. Here's the water, the pump station there for the water department that they have, and again, looking to the east. So the reason this lies within the hillside overlay zone. The reason it came before is, beside being in the hillside overlay zone, it also has areas of the property that have slopes greater than 20% that they will be proposing to disturb. And then there were also some geologic hazards associated with this development. So the yellow represents the 30 to 39%, which limits how much you can disturb. The green is the 20 to 29, and then there was a smattering of red within there that is above the 40% that is not supposed to be disturbed unless there's conditions. And you can see right here, here's some of the green and the yellow, and then the red, which is the 40%. And then just really more of the green and the yellow right there. So this was heard by Hillside. One of the conditions was, one of the approvals was to determine if these red areas were insignificant and not contiguous to any type of hillside or something like that that would require the hillside committee determined that these were insignificant and not contiguous to hillside and could be removed as part of the development. Just so you're, the green and yellow that they are proposing to disturb, they fall within the percentages allowed within the hillside ordinance, so they were okay there. There also is, on this property, there is, as you can tell, I'll go back here, just one right here. You can tell there's some large rocks that lie up here. So they did a rockfall hazard study on the project. This red line right here represents the rockfall hazard line that was determined through their study. This is kind of the limitations of what they expect the rockfall to extend if it does come down. And then they also had two fault lines. Let me see if I can get a little closer. They had two fault lines right here and right here that lie on the property. They did do some trenching across and determined that they are there. They're not active, but they're kind of dormant active, I'm going to say, is what they said. So basically, in their report for the fault, so they provided a geologic hazard report, and then the hazard report indicated, like I said, that this is the extent of the hills or the rockfall hazard, and that this right here and right here, that hatched area, would be a no-build area within those lots because it lies within within this fault hazard area. Yeah. So when I say no build, they said no structures that are habitable. So you could put a pool or a fence or that kind of thing, or a structure there or a garage, but nothing that could be lived in is what they said. So basically the hillside recommendation was that they are not contiguous the 40% areas are not contiguous nor part of a major hillside formation. The removal of these areas would not create a negative aesthetic impact in the opinion, would not create a negative aesthetic impact, and the land area is zoned for residential. They did recommend, they do have a fairly substantial wall that they need to build right here to develop these lots. They did recommend that the color blend in with the natural surroundings instead of just a random wall, so that they have requested that. They also requested that drainage coming from off of the hillside here not be conveyed through the lots, but be conveyed around the project in some type of ditch. And I'll show you in a second on the preliminary plat how they address that. They also recommended that besides the recommendations shown in the geologic hazard study of this area being a no-build, that per the IBC, any setback required per the IBC adjacent to a fault line also be addressed. And then they also had this 30-foot ridge line setback right here. I'll show you on the preliminary plat. We adjusted a little after we walked the hillside with them and felt like there were some areas where it needed to be adjusted based on rock outcroppings and things like that. So that's kind of that. And then I'll show you the, let me just go to the hillside. Oh, I need to close that.
So now this is on item 22.
Yeah, so this is a preliminary plat. If you're okay, I'll just show you what the preliminary plat was. So let me pull out my notes here. So they have adjusted, the Planning Commission recommended, so originally they showed this rockfall area lying within the 10-foot rear yard setback. The Planning Commission requested that the rockfall hazard line be at the property line or off of the property line, so they have moved it so that it does sit on the property line right there. So they've moved it per that request. They also are proposing with their preliminary plat that this area here be a detention basin. There's a drainage line that comes down Bandit Hills Drive that picks up some of the airport and then Bandit Hills Road, and it'll be it'll be conveyed into here, and they are proposing to do a detention basin here. With their proposal is to dedicate that to the city. I did talk to Parks Department, and they were okay with taking it and maybe doing something with it in the future. And so they were okay with the city, they were okay with the Parks Department taking ownership of that as part of a dedication. They also provided a drainage swell along the rear of these lots as requested by the hillside, that brings the drainage right through here all the way to a point here, and then it'll be taken out into a storm drain line. And then the portion here comes to an inlet right here, a little collection basin, comes into the drainage there, and then goes out there. So they have addressed that, and they're picking up the drainage, putting in a swell similar to, I think it's this one right here, where they'll pick that drainage up and take it around. And this is that tall wall that I showed you along the rear of those lots right there that will be colored per the surrounding environment there. Let's see. They do have that 30-foot. Oh, and so then see they've adjusted the 30-foot ridgeline setback a little more to the south to address some of the rock outcroppings we felt. So it was really just right in here where we asked them to address that, or to adjust that line, and they did. This line basically stayed the same. So this would be a ridgeline setback with no disturbance and nothing in there based on the ordinance.
Were they adjusted, is it over 30 feet or not?
Well, so basically they just adjusted the ridgeline setback. So originally the ridgeline setback line was about right here that they had proposed. We just had them push it back a little bit. It's still 30 feet based on wherever we decided to put that, or agreed to. They will have double frontage lots along here that will require a 6-foot privacy wall and a landscape strip. And I think that's it. So there was 2 items there. I just showed them both together. One is the hillside approval, and then one is the preliminary plat approval.
Very good. Questions, other questions?
Motion.
Yeah, let's do them separately, of course.
Right.
So we would do the hillside.
Mayor, I have one question.
Sir.
And that is the drainage, the ditch. Who will maintain that?
So right now, the ditch, they're proposing to put it on property that they own and leave it on their property. And so they would be responsible to keep that ditch open and maintained.
But do we have an agreement that states that?
No, we'd have to put that together prior to the
So
plat
with
recording.
condition, they maintain the
That we haven't.
ditch.
And who's they? You know what I mean?
It's
Quality.
Development Solutions.
Yep.
Mhm.
So 20 years from now, that was my question in planning commission.
Right.
Who's gonna maintain it later?
And there will be.
Good question.
That will come up. And whether Development Solutions is around, and with that name, if you go back to that property owner, it may be a successor that says,
But it's not on his property, well, not on the lot.
right, but the impact, of course, if that's not maintained, will go to those adjacent lot owners. And so that is the problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. I know whose fault it'll be.
Yep.
I know who they will come to.
Right. Yeah, that's lawyer speak. Very good, thank you.
So what do you advise us to do?
Any property where that thing's gonna go, the drainage,
Detention?
whoever owns that, can you put a deed restriction on it?
That's us.
Who,
I didn't think it was us.
Oh, you talking about
mean
the one behind?
This property back here?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not the detention basin.
Yeah, Sean, what would you advise us to do?
well, normally, a property owner that's developing would have to take whatever water, stormwater is coming down through that subdivision and find a way, engineering-wise, to take that through our system or out to the detention basin. But I think Joe is correct. If we think that someone is going to be out there maintaining that ditch all the time, it may even be the property owners below the ditch who someday say, you know, I want to plant some trees back here, and which we've seen happen too, and it's not necessarily on their property, but they go in and fill it in. That affects their neighbors. You may say, well, then they'll have to take the water that comes off of that, but their neighbors, the water no longer flows along there. And so that's something that I would think that you've discussed with them.
Yeah, you know, one option that they did talk about was bringing it through the lots. I think the Hillside Board just felt like it's better to put it in a channel that's owned by and maintained by one individual instead of, you know, I don't know, it's a hard decision. It's a hard.
We don't know if that individual is going to be there and
Right,
who's going to be
correct.
responsible. It's going, you know.
Correct.
He may sell the ground 3 days from today.
That's right.
Who maintains it?
And we're not talking just liability here. We're talking about practicality. If it's not maintained and the homeowners are saying, well, it's 4 houses down from me or up from me, and it's someone else's responsibility, what do? It's flooding our yards. They'll come to the city, obviously.
So can we pass the preliminary with that stipulation that something's
Be resolved on that? Yes, if you put that condition on there, that engineering work with the developer and they come back with an acceptable solution for the city to that drainage problem. I'm not clear why Hillside didn't want it to go through.
I just think they felt like that when the homes are built, home builders don't really address it, and it ends up coming into those lots and flooding the lots anyways. I think that's
So,
kind of.
and
my
I would
impression.
question whether that's within their purview anyway, because it has nothing to do with cutting
Hillside.
into the hillside.
Doesn't.
That's right. So that's why I question that type of recommendation.
Amen.
This is a tricky little piece of ground.
Because it can be developed, obviously,
Yep.
because it falls within that rockfall hazard area, and so it's going to be an open piece of ground.
I would just really like to not have some future council cussing us out for what we created. So exactly. Tonight. So yeah, I think in terms of the hillside development permit, we could counsel, been given a little bit of counsel by council to the council that we could,
counseling?
yeah, we could approve the hillside development permit. just like that. And then we could go to item 22 and address, I think, the other issue.
Just not have that stipulation about the drainage on the development
On the
permit.
development permit. Is that clear as mud? Pardon the pun.
Motion to approve the hillside development permit for Banded Ridge.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, with a second by Betty.
Ed?
Ed?
Either way.
I'm giving it to Betty.
Oh.
And any discussion?
And that's without the
That's
recommendation on
Correct.
drainage.
Mr. Motioner?
Correct.
Correct.
And-
Second? Correct.
Correct.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mary, that site up there, like many other sites in St. George, are just beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Just beautiful views.
Yep. It's gorgeous. Just don't want a rock in your backyard.
Yep.
All right.
Do we need to include the rockfall limits?
The rock
Those
fall
were
limits.
changed on the plat that.
Yeah,
they-
so it would be per the preliminary plat shown here, not per what the drawing they had originally on.
So we're not including any of the planning commission recommendations.
So the rockfall hazard line would be moved to the property, rear property line of those lots right through here.
Okay.
Lots 12 through 18.
And I think you'll address that with the preliminary plat,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So you're just,
All
you're
right.
just taking action on the permit right now.
Perfect.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, 22, which we've already been presented, but we're just now going to consider, and this is where we can put in some of the language if you so choose, council. This is the preliminary plat.
Move to approve the preliminary plat for Banded Ridge. And what other language do you want me to put?
Here we go. Sean?
That would be subject to resolution of the drainage for the hillside. Is that clear enough for you?
So moved, yes.
Second.
So,
Yep.
so prior to, I'm assuming the final plat being.
Prior to the final plat, and that is to the city's satisfaction.
Okay.
And I think the council has already indicated that they're not comfortable with the ditch situation on the third-party property.
I think that's fair to say.
Not comfortable with the ditch.
Yep. So that was a motion by Betty with a second by Ed?
Yeah, and that catch basin's going to be donated to the city, right?
Correct. That's part of the conditions, I believe. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we're back to 9 now, right, Adam?
Just to brighten your day a little, though, I wanted to throw out something about that fault line. Here's how you can have a successful marriage. If you find a fault, don't dwell on it.
Somebody's not paying attention there, are they?
All right.
Okay, item 9 is a request to consider approval of a 3-lot commercial final subdivision plat called Boulder Creek Crossing Phase 2. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located west of the intersection of 1450 South Street and River Road. Zone is PDC. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So it's these 3 lots right here. So here's River Road, here's Popeyes right there. And so these 3 lots, they will have to have a cross-access agreement as the property line for these 2 lots is right down the middle of that access. And then there's also an easement right through here. There's a drain line that was installed years ago at St. James Place. Comes down to that location right there and terminates and just discharges. They will be required to extend that drain line through to here. I think Public Works will probably have to use some funds to help extend that drain line as it's taking runoff from a different development through their development.
Questions on this one, council?
Motion to approve the final plat for Boulder Creek Crossing Phase 2.
Second.
That was a motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 10 is a request to consider approval of a 15-lot residential subdivision final plat called Cornerstone Phase 5. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at 3210 East Signaler Drive. Zone is R110. Again, all aspects reviewed by the staff of the preliminary plat or the final plat that meets the preliminary plat. So this is 3210 East, 3000 would be right here. This is Bridal Gate, and so it's just these last lots here. This portion right here is where they have the 60-inch or 66-inch drain line and that 54-inch irrigation line. There will be a future trail, both equestrian and what do you call it, a trail? Just a regular trail, I'm going to say. And there you go.
Walking
Thank
path,
you.
bike.
Thank you. And they'll be shutting this off now. Right now, as you know, they use this as an access through here to get out to 3000, but with the construction of 3210 East, we'll close that off, and they can then come up through here and out to 3000 on dedicated roadways instead of using this.
And that's going to get really busy.
Mhm.
Because they're using the dirt path right now.
I know.
They
When I
are.
say they, I mean me.
Sorry.
So am I.
Because there's no way to get around there. That's the only way you want to come back, because if you come back down 2,000, you're just suicidal.
And those are all 10,000 square foot lots.
Mayor, move to
Yes.
approve the final plat for Cornerstone Phase
5.
Second.
Have a motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just for clarification, these lots right here did lot size average, so there's some that are
Those
just
did.
a little bit less, but it still meets that density of 3.2. Okay, item 11 is request to consider approval of a 20-lot residential subdivision final plat called Desert Cove Phase 2, Representatives Development Solutions. Property is located at Rocky Talus Way and Mesa Rock Drive. Zone is R110. Again, all aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. This is down here in the Desert Canyons development, almost to their south end. It's right there. This area right here that's in the hatched is a no disturbed area per the hillside that is to be left undisturbed.
Questions, council, on this one? I like the name of that road.
Rocky Talus Way.
Rocky Talus Way.
That's pretty.
Motion to approve the final subdivision plat, Desert Cove Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Betty. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item, I lost 13 maybe, is a request to consider approval of a 54-unit residential final subdivision plat called Desert Hills Townhomes. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at 840 East and Thunder Road. Zone is PDR. Again, all aspects is final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. So here's Desert Hills High School right here to the south, Thunder Ridge Drive right there. This is that new commercial development with the KB Oil right here. So it's these units here, which would all be private. These would be limited common area, and then obviously common area in the white.
Where else have we heard 54 units tonight?
That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, then I think we should change it to 30.
What? You want to
Motion to
Second.
approve the final plat for Desert Hills Townhome.
That was a motion
Second.
by Michelle with a quick second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of a 6-lot commercial subdivision final plat called Dino Landing. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located southwest of the intersection of Mall Drive and Riverside Drive. Zone is PDC and C3. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff, and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. It will be subject to a master sign agreement for this sign right there. Also, this right here, this entrance is common area, whereas this access is actually owned by these lots. So they'll have to do a cross-access agreement between these 5 lots right here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They are proposing to dedicate that portion of their property to the city, as this is Middleton Wash that comes down through here, and there's a trail right there. So they are proposing to dedicate that to the city.
Questions on this?
Motion to approve the final subdivision plat, Dino Landing.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of a 10-lot residential subdivision final plat called Elmwood Estates Phase 2. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at 3350 East and 3180 South. Zone is R18. Again, all aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. So this right here on your vicinity map is Crimson Ridge Drive. So it's north of Crimson, and then 3000's over here, so it's east of 3000 East. Kind of the eastern edge of their development right now.
Motion to approve final subdivision plat Elmwood Estates Phase 2.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on this motion for final plat?
Those are 8,000 square foot lots, Jimmy.
Oh, never mind.
He saw it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of a 2-lot residential subdivision final plat called Elmwood Estates Phase 5B. Representatives Development Solutions. Property is located at 3430 East and 3180 South. Zone is R18. Again, all aspects of this plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. It's just east of the last subdivision we just approved, that was just approved.
Motion to approve the final plat for Elmwood Estates Phase 5B.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
That was only 2 lots at R18, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good one.
The next item is a request to consider approval of a 16-lot residential final subdivision plat called Meadow Valley Farms Phase 11. Representatives Development Solutions. Property is located at 3770 South and Bentley Road. Zone is A1 and RE20. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So this is Bentley Road right here. Right down here is Commerce, so it's north of Commerce and just west of Bentley Road right there. This is the Fort Pierce Wash right here. This will be, so the city has submitted, as you probably know, a study to FEMA to address the floodplain line along the Fort Pierce. This new line that they have submitted to FEMA as part of their request comes right along the back of these lots in here and then follows up right through there. And they are within the erosion hazard line, so they'll have to do an erosion hazard study. And then all of these lots will require an elevation certificate with the lot as each, because of the proximity to the Fort Pierce.
Where's the piece we just approved, open space? Just across the road?
It's just down here to the south.
Okay. Motion to approve the final subdivision plat for Meadow Valley Farms Phase 2.
Second.
There was a motion by Jimmy with a second by Ed. Any discussion?
It's actually Phase 11.
Oh, Phase 11, my bad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Roman, so I was looking at that.
You all right with that, Ed?
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is a request to consider approval of a 4-lot residential subdivision final plat called Redwood Estates Phase 8A. Representatives Development Solutions. Property is located at 3350 East, 3180 South. Zone is R18. Again, all aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So this is just north and kind of west of those ones we did earlier.
Questions, council? Been saving up these final plats for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, they have.
Motion to approve the final plat for Redwood Estates Phase 8A.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of a 13-lot residential subdivision final plat called Sage Canyon Phase 2. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the intersection of Hayrocks Drive and Mountain Trail. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. So again, if you look on your vicinity map, here's River Road right here. Here is the Southern Parkway. So it's that development just north of the Southern Parkway and east of River Road.
Brand new one.
Yeah, it's kind of that new area out there.
It's crazy.
Questions?
Motion to approve the final plat for Sage Canyon Phase 2 subdivision.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Jimmy. 6110 South, folks.
We're a long way down there.
That is out there.
Who would have ever thunk it?
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next request is to consider approval of a 15-lot residential subdivision final plat called Tonnequin Cove Phase 1. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at Curly Hollow Drive and Rock Park Drive. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So here's Curly Hollow Drive right here. It's kind of at the end of Curly Hollow right now, and it's these lots right here. The hatched area there is a 10-foot landscape strip because these are double fronting lots. So they have a privacy wall. The landscape strip will be owned and maintained by an association, a homeowners association with this project. Because all of the landscape strip along here is already owned by an association.
That's good.
Yeah.
Tell me there's going to be a park out there, will you, please?
That's up to you guys.
Yeah, what he said.
Have you seen any emails on that?
None.
Okay.
Oh, affordable housing. That's a good spot for it. 20 acres.
Well, any discussion?
Motion to approve the Tonnequit Cove Phase 1 subdivision final plat.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of a 14-lot residential subdivision final plat called White Sands Phase 3. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the intersection of Hayrocks Drive and Wolf Hole Drive. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the condition of the preliminary plat. So again, this is down where the other one is. Here is the Southern Parkway, River Road. This one's just north of the last one. Right here's that White Dome Hill, the Nature Conservancy District owns, so it's the last one. It's just right against that. They do have this area here that's zoned R110 that was part of the that's part of the developer's property. They're holding that out. They would like to do a future trail through here. It is zoned R110, so we've asked them to go through and change the zone on this to open space. They have submitted that, but it won't be heard until after the plat records, if you're okay with that. Because our next planning commission meeting isn't until the end of September, because we're skipping one because of ULCT, and so
We'll just make it contingent on that.
that's what
I would suggest, council.
Who's coming up with those names?
What name?
Wolf Hole?
Well, okay, so those are Arizona Strip names. Wolf Hole is up on the top of the hill as you're heading out to the strip. Hay rocks are those rocks that we pass out there that they used to hide the hay on, or stick the hay on to keep away from the animals.
Must be Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your history lesson for the day.
Yep.
What needed to be in here? Sorry. I was out to the ranch by then.
Contingent on the adjacent property.
That 30-foot stretch on the north side being zoned open space.
Motion to approve the final subdivision plat for White Sands Phase 3 subdivision, subject to the adjacent trail.
The adjacent property being zoned open space.
That one.
On the north side.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Ed. Discussion on the motion. Michelle's trying to have discussion, but no. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Approval of a subdivision of 10 lots or less without a plat, and it's actually been changed to a 5-lot commercial subdivision, 5 lots. Representative is Alpha Engineering. Property is located at 2450 South and River Road. Zone is PDC. Basically, what they're doing is, this is that subdivision that was approved, Ventana Ridge, that they're working on right now. They want to subdivide this into 5 lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 being commercial, with this 5th one being residential, that you'll soon see a plat on this one right here. The commercial ones would be required to provide an easement for irrigation, water, and sewer that comes right through here and through the development. They also have to have a condition of cross access, as they're all going to share, they all share in this access here and here. So these lots need to have cross-access to get to a public right-of-way. Also, they will be required to dedicate that decel lane to the city right there. I think that's everything.
Any other concerns, John or Sean, on this? We're good? I love the cross-access thing. So glad we started doing that a number of years ago. It really helps a lot, so.
It does.
Any questions, council? Otherwise, ready for a motion?
Yeah, is that, I didn't know that was residential right there.
This is residential right here. This is
Behind
that
it.
Ventana Ridge. So it's those R110
You remember?
lots.
Remember how they first wanted it all
Oh, okay.
commercial?
Yeah.
And then they
All
said,
right.
no, the neighbors said, we want most of this residential, so that's what we went with.
Okay,
Commercial on the front.
I'm back to the party.
Motion to approve the subdivision of the 10 lots or less without a plat located at 2550 South River Road.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Ed. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
And then my last item is this one right here. It's a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 6-unit commercial subdivision called The Shops at Red Cliffs. Site is located at 2736 East Red Cliffs Drive. Property is 0.86 acres. The zoning is C3. Let's see, the purpose of this is an existing building right here. I know there's that running store in there because
Yeah.
I bought shoes in there.
Yeah.
Washington property line is right there. They're just making this into a condominium, so these would all be 6 separate units, individually owned, and then the hatched area here would be common area. They do have a sign here that they would create as limited common area as only 1 or 2 of the units actually get to use the sign for advertising or so forth, so that would be limited common area here. And they would dedicate that portion of Red Cliffs Drive that hasn't been dedicated to the city right there.
Nice catch. Any questions, council? You know where this is.
Mm-hmm. Pretty close to city of Washington.
Right there.
Smoked out, yeah.
Ready for motion if you are.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor, the preliminary plat for the Shops at Red Cliffs.
Motion by Ed with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Council and Adam, I don't have any appointments. If I'm missing any, please let me know. I think I'm relatively up to date. Let me ask now, do we have any need for a closed session, Adam? I didn't think so. You talk to Sean. He doesn't have any. He's out there, so you snooze, you lose.
That's right. Uh-oh.
Closed session, city attorney?
Actually, we would like the council to reconsider item number 16.
Oh.
Oh.
A motion to reconsider item number 16. And no, I do not want it closed.
Okay.
No, we're not reconsidering that. Those are
Jimmy liked
good-sized
that
lots.
one. Yeah, Jimmy liked that one. What's
Yes.
the deal?
There is, we have, this plat contemplates approval by FEMA of a new flood map.
Yeah, right.
And, but it has not been approved by FEMA
So it's
yet.
gotta be subject
So it's
to
got to be
that.
subject to that FEMA approval. I would also note for the record that the applicant wasn't here during the first consideration of this, so it doesn't make any difference here. But we'd like you to reconsider that item to put that condition on the approval.
Can I just condition my original?
If we have a motion to reconsider item 16 first.
So moved.
We have a motion to reconsider item 16 by Michelle, second by Ed. Any discussion on that motion? That's all we're doing right now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. So now, Jimmy.
Now, yes.
Motion to amend my original motion to include the
Condition.
the condition on the final subdivision plat approval for Meadow Valley Farms Phase 11 to be subject to the flood FEMA map revision.
Second.
Good motion. Motion by Jimmy, second by Ed. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Very good. Any reports from the council, city manager?
Mayor, I realize it's late. I did want to bring up perhaps the ranked choice voting
Yeah.
item and just see if there
Thanks
is
for remembering.
some direction from the council informally to us. Ranked choice voting.
You might have to explain a little. That's why we need a presentation, because I don't understand it.
Ranked choice, essentially, as you're casting your ballot, you would be ranking all of the candidates so that it's not just a single vote, but you're putting all of the candidates in order. The state of Utah has allowed for a trial, or what would we call it, a pilot program, for cities who would be interested to try this. It is a voting method that's used in other places. What it does is trying to explain the primary benefit for the ranked choice.
Does it eliminate,
Popularity?
is
What's
it
it
a,
for?
is it a
prevents
final
It
election?
prevents essentially that third candidate from coming in and taking a portion of the vote away from a second candidate. So basically, it's a process of elimination.
Yeah.
Essentially, as you rank those candidates, there's a process of elimination. So you always get down to 2 candidates, and it always requires a majority of the vote to win an election. So that a third candidate is not in there taking votes from a second place candidate, and were that third candidate eliminated, the second place candidate could actually come out ahead.
Remind me, does it mean you don't have a primary election? Is that correct? I think it is. I think it means,
Well, hot dang.
and so again, and you know how you steal each other's votes kind of thing, if you will? If you got people with similar supporters, let's say, but if you're ranking them,
Who did this?
right, all the way down. Is that correct, I think? Anyway, they're saying, but it's just ranking.
So what we could do, we don't need to make obviously a decision tonight.
Do you
but
want to hear
the-
from
The
them?
Lieutenant Governor's office has asked us to consider it, to get back to them and express interest as to whether or not we wanted to be in the pilot program. So we can forward you the information, and then if we could just ask that you take a look at that. And Mayor, would you rather the council kind of funnel that through you, and then we can?
Either way, you and I, whatever. And they're chomping at the bit to come tell us about it, which we could do if you want, but I think it'd be a good idea to look at the information first.
Why? Why would they want to?
Well, again, it's because it's a pilot. I mean, I don't know if it works or not, but think about what happens in primary elections, especially ours. When you have 13 candidates running for 3 slots, weird things happen, you know? And so I wonder, I don't understand it fully myself, so I'm not advocating for it, but I would like to understand it better. If it might simplify it, I don't know, maybe it doesn't, but I think most people understand ranking, you know? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever.
I don't think it hurts to look at the information and then
We'll send it to you. And then you pour over it a little bit, and then see if they're chomping at the bit trying to come down and talk to us. But we don't have to do it, but they would love to come and explain it to us. So Adam, do you want to send the information out?
Sure, I'll forward that.
And then I've already got it, but if Adam sends it out, just let he and I know, either in email back or just let us know what you think, and if you'd like more information on it, or if you're like no. Okay. Thanks for remembering that, Adam. They've been after us for like 6 weeks. Everything all right?
One.
Mayor, I have one little item. Sherilyn Davis, who was elected chosen the new Arts Commission chairman, would like to come and speak to the council, just to get to know us, and she wants to know what we hope for them, and just a really good communication with the council. And I don't know whether you'd like to put her on the agenda for the next work meeting, or...
Good question. And by the way, we have no meeting next week. I know, but the next week we do. And if she wanted to, Adam, I think she could come to that meeting.
Would that be okay?
You won't be the 30th? Okay. Well, that's a good place to be.
Next week, no meeting, then the next week is it a regular meeting?
No.
Work
it's a
meeting.
Work meeting. That's a fifth Thursday.
Okay.
And frankly, we could move it all to next week, but it's like we've had stuff kind of set in motion that may not be ready for next week. We're also probably, I would guess at the end of September, going to get back to Title 10. Sound right, Sean and Adam? Sean and the staff, legal staff are working feverishly to try to finish things up there, and it's just, yeah, with the planning staff as well. Yes, feverishly, yes. And the problem is there's all these other things that you see on our agenda that have to get in there. Correct.
And you'd like her to come on the 16th?
No, she can come on the 30th
30th.
if she'd like. Otherwise, yeah.
And that's 5 o'clock?
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on the 30th. No meeting on the 13th of September because of the rodeo. JK. It's the rodeo and the League of Cities.
And
Some
I'll
of
have
us will be
jet lag.
one place, and some of us will be coming home from Germany, and others will be very busy in the rodeo. Okay. Yes, regular meeting on the 6th. If you... So no meeting next week. Yes, a work meeting on the 30th at 4 p.m. Yes, a meeting on the first Thursday, which is the 6th, at 5. No meeting on the 13th due to the rodeo and all those other things.
Okay.
We got a holiday. Clear as mud?
Clear as mud.
Huh? We never...
Yeah.
That's why we're not having it.
Anything else, Betty? Okay. Jimmy? How was DTEC?
Great.
You
Betty
and
was
Betty.
there. We had pizza and salad. What else did we do there? No, good stuff.
Okay.
Got some good presentations on.
Thanks for being there. I was nervous if they'd have a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of, so thank you. I don't have anything else. Michelle, do you have anything? She does. Oh,
Oh, we had Shade Tree Board meeting today,
yes.
which Mr. Guzman showed up to very late, but he showed up.
He
Adam
outed him.
almost spit
You
his
outed
water
him.
out. There was still cold pizza.
Couldn't have been that late then.
The Parks Department, they went to every single house in Desert Hills subdivision to
Oh
look
my
at their
gosh.
trees. Remember
Yes.
that Cameron said they
Yes.
wanted to rip all those trees out? They found that there's only 6 unhealthy trees out there that need to come down. The rest are all like thriving. So it was kind of clear as mud what we're doing, but we're keeping the trees. They're going to try a new product that is rubbery, that kind of expands with the roots. And in place of the sidewalks that are coming up.
Yep.
And if it works, we can use it at other places. But former council member Gill, is still on the Shade Tree Board, our tree hugger. And he went to a ton of neighbors out there, and they were all like, no, we want our trees. Just,
Excellent.
they knew how ugly it'd look if they ripped down all those trees, because they're really healthy, nice trees. So we're doing that.
I will say with that, they're going to come back to the city manager with cost estimates for the different
Yeah.
types of products that are available or porous, and
Yeah.
then they'll have a recommendation after visiting with
And I
Adam.
kind of spoke on behalf of all of you. The 6 trees that we have to take out because they're dead, we can just replace them.
Yes.
They're, I said they could take it out of my paycheck if they needed to, but they're gonna just put 6 trees back.
Yes.
I know.
Those are small trees if we take it out of your paycheck.
They're twigs, but that's okay.
1 gallons?
And can I bring up the other news we got? I can? Okay. So, we got,
Careful.
I know, we got disturbing news at Shade Tree Board today. So, an architect came down from Salt Lake City to the LDS temple, and they want to rip all the trees out everywhere.
What?
And replace with desert landscaping.
Whoa. Oh.
See? And we all about how to fit.
Plus the grass and everything.
Yes.
Salt
They've
Lake
done it in
City?
Mason.
Yeah,
Yes.
send them back.
So we need to be proactive to get word to whoever we need to up the ladder. If it's a conservation thing and the appearance of conserving water, start with your churches. Take out some of your grasses there at the chapels. But that temple, we need to leave it. And I bet we can't find the landscape plan because Brigham probably took it with him to the grave. But I bet there was lots of trees and grass, and we have to stick to that landscape plan.
And our
Can you
understanding
imagine?
is that the landscape architect wanted to remove the street trees
Yes.
surrounding the temple as
There's
well.
all the street trees, all the trees in the parking lot.
So was he commissioned by the LDS?
Yes, it's a she. It's a she, and yes, she was.
At the dedication of the
Tabernacle.
it's interesting, there's a she there who is the historic representative. And she, people were complaining about the color of the front doors, they were white. She said, oh, no, these were whatever.
Historic.
Yucky color those are. So they're putting it all back.
And I did talk to Scott because the Parks Department was concerned that they were going to start using secondary water on the temple, and he said, no, it is still the Temple Springs water. It will always be the Temple Springs water, and they're going to even try to use that spring for the new stake center being built and the Flood Street Chapel. And we need to get on him again about culinary water at the old cemetery, but so that landscape will still thrive. The water is still good water. We just can't let them do that.
And just to clarify, the reason why we're doing that is because the LDS Church deeded those rights to the Temple Springs over to the city in exchange for that agreement of providing
Yeah.
the water. So it's nothing, it's per that agreement.
Well,
We're gonna try.
some of it, certainly the street trees, we do. The rest of it, without a landscape plan, and Brother Brigham or whatever, I don't know. But I definitely think we can have, yeah, and we will. I'm already warming up a letter to somebody.
And I read today, this morning, that there's a very specific name of our church, of the church of some people,
Yeah.
who, that they're getting very strict. And it's not LDS anymore.
Yeah.
Can't use that,
I saw that.
nor Mormon, nor any of that.
Well, you gotta
So
get-
save the grass, save the trees at the temple. Yeah, I mean, people of all religions go there, and I see, if you go by those trees, I bet some of them are gotta be way old, and there's so much shade, and you'll see a family sitting on the grass having a little picnic, or it's just a really beautiful place to go, and
Yeah.
imagine with cactus and rock.
You need to write that letter for us all, John.
Well, we can all sign it if you want.
Yes.
I'd be happy to have us do
Well, if
that.
you guys need me to, I can go to the guy that makes all the decisions.
Okay.
I'm probably the only one. The rest of you heathens can't get through.
Who is that?
I'll say my prayers tonight.
Okay.
Got the name of the local person because we have an issue with them, and I had to go to them, and they cleaned up their yard. So, yeah, you can talk to them.
Yeah.
This guy's very nice.
Yeah, we're all a little disappointed to hear
Well,
that, so.
I think we can have a couple of local questions.
Aren't there some
but-
pecan trees there?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think so.
man. Yeah, we can't lose those.
We will work on that. I'm really glad you were there so we could know that now and get working on it.
And you did get the grant approved, the SAFER grant
Safer grant.
That was really
which
a
is,
biggie.
Which is, worth, what did we say? Safer grant's worth 900,000?
960 some
That's a
thousand.
big deal.
That's Fed's part, yeah.
Joe, have you got anything else, Michelle?
No, that's
Joe?
good.
Ed, while we're there, anything else? I'm just going to mention today the department heads, led by the city manager, met to discuss the first Brighter Side Awards. We'll tell you about that more. It's a cool thing, cool process. I think you'll really enjoy it. We'll present those here.
That's great.
Good.
And it's really cool. Our people are doing some really cool things. And I was just briefing them a little bit on the Brighter Side Awards, and that will soon. Maybe that'll be the 6th of September or something. I don't know. We'll work on that and let you know. But I really like the process, and it was really fun. We spent an hour going through, how many was that? Maybe 9?
8 or 9.
8 or 9 nominations. It was really cool stuff. Yeah, we'll do it twice a year is kind of, at this point, Adam's thoughts, and I just think it's a great idea. What it's doing for me is it's letting me know all the really kind of the extra mile things that people are doing. And we have people doing some really neat things that are really outside of the scope of their normal day or their normal job. So really, really neat. And I hope we'll see that, represented from all departments over time. So, anything else, Adam?
Just one last thing. We've discussed a potential sale or lease of city property.
Surplus.
There is a group of 4 city employees, including myself, that will be leaving Sunday. We'll be gone through Wednesday. We'll have cell phones and be available, but it'll be a busy few days. And we'll come back and give you a report on what we see and how it looks, and we can go from there.
You will have nearly as much fun as touring a recycling plant in Germany.
Yeah. He's going to agree with you there. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn. Okay, Michelle makes the motion. Any second? If we need it. Second by Betty. All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Jimmy, did you oppose? You thought